PWG is more or less, I hate to say done, because you never say never, but I don't see them ever doing it again. You know?
Yeah. But you know what you can watch? You can watch Epic Pro Wrestling out of Baldwin Park, August 29th. Andrew, he is the promoter, the progenitor, the man behind Epic Pro in LA. Why'd you tell people about that show, man?
It's gonna be a great show. We got Bad Dude Tito facing Alpha Zoe. We got Royce Isaacs defending the Epic Pro Championship. We got Tony Deppen making his Epic Pro debut. It's gonna be sick. Tickets available at bettereachday4.eventbrite.com and at the door. $30 for adults. GA tickets all over. So first come first serve. You want front row seat or want to pull up a front row seat, whatever, as long as you're not blocking any aisles. Kids' tickets are $20 at the door only. So, yeah, bell time 7 p.m. Doors open at 6:20. We'll probably have a prelim match or two. So it's gonna be a sick show. Tons of free parking and air conditioning too.
Yeah.
Air conditioning in SoCal, especially in Baldwin Park. That's where I grew up, man, and it gets hot out there. So I gotta duck into that show to get some AC because my wife doesn't let me turn it on. So, absolutely go watch that show. Go to Epic Pro in Baldwin Park. Go hit up on Eventbrite. You could hit Andrew up on X. He's Epic Pro LA, right? That's Epic Pro LA on
Epic Pro LA on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and YouTube.
私みっこ
What's up? This is Dr. Lariat, aka I was right about KZ. It's KZ time. Good Gotti, it's KZ time. I love that it's KZ time. And it's your host here. And this is of course a state of wrestling. We have a lot to say. I know we haven't done this show the last time we did the show was like about a month ago. And a lot has happened in a month. So I'm gonna introduce everybody here. We got the Three Stooges here, the full Three Stooges. We got the Curly to my Larry. What's up, Arturo?
Hey, not much.
We got the Shemp to my Larry, BJ.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And of course, we have our partner in this endeavor that we're talking about, the trilogy of the Super Junior tournaments of the 90s. And you're about to hear us talk about Super J-Cup 94 very soon. You heard him with us talk for about 10 hours on the Wrestling Observer News Hall of Fame 2025. We have making his debut on State of Wrestling, JML. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
I'm so lucky that booking fell out and we were able to get you on here. So thank you for coming. There was a lot of news that broke today, but there's a lot of stuff that happened today, and this kind of dovetails into each other. So I know what's a little bit of news. I heard that Pat McAfee got a bump in his pay at ESPN. And there's been a lot of stuff happening at ESPN this week, guys. A lot of layoffs at ESPN.
Yeah, I gotta say that so ESPN had a very huge peak from the 90s into the 2000s. When they hit the 2000s, you've kind of seen what was pretty much the best sports media outlet ever just kind of devolve as it's lost its investigating and reporting edge. It's more about chasing viral moments instead of getting good analysis and good sports coverage, and it's just been a sad week. I'm not a huge Ryan Clark fan. I don't always agree what he says, but he's an honest guy. He's a serious analyst. He got laid off live on his show. Like, who the heck? He was on his air. And they had to pull him off during commercial and tell him, we gotta let you know you're getting laid off. We weren't supposed to let it, Mal, but apparently somebody found out and they're gonna publish a story. So we just think he should go back on air after commercial break. It's coming down hard on WWE because now ESPN, what do? They're spending over $250 million a year to put, the handful of WWE pay-per-views or PLEs or whatever the hell you want to call them on their network. And people are, this is becoming more of a rallying call. Is like, if you're paying this much, if you're paying $250 million a year for WWE, why can't you pay for the rest of your sports coverage? Why can't you keep Ryan Clark? Why can't you keep people that are good voices? Why can't you keep your journalists? Why can't you have a better, beat coverage? And it's been incessant, and people were pointing more and more at that deal. And I this is what I've been hearing since this came in, and that's that this thing will not be renewed when it's done. I think most people probably figure that. I don't think it's going to be a case where they cancel it out early, but it's just going to be like Fox, where they're never going to live up to the money being paid to them. And also they're now becoming a target for the fall of the network. And that's a hard label to lose.
I think we've been talking about this from the go, and I kind of want to lay it out for people. Effectively, because this will become relevant later. So the way Disney worked for a long time, and ESPN for Disney, ESPN always got huge carriage fees because of the ESPN and the right stuff. And carriage fees means that, because ESPN was in every hotel and every house and a key part of the cable package, a lot of your cable fees coming down to I think it was $49 a month coming from ESPN, and they move that over to 100 million subscribers. That is a huge amount of cash every month, which basically was used as kind of a cash drive, like a fixed cash driver to drive a lot of the shit that Disney was doing. Now, the problem has been, as obviously people have left cable, and we were talking about this off air, but it's the thing. One of the big problems is now we're at a point where streaming is bigger than cable, and this will become important later. Keep this in mind, but we're under 60 million cable subscribers in the U.S. for the first time this year, and now so to give an example, TBS now has less cable subscribers, has less subscribers than HBO. Keep that in mind. That'll become important later. So effectively, for Disney, it is something that is making less and less money every year. And what they've been trying to do is move those customers to streaming. But again, this was a problem for WWE when they did this, is they started the streamer, and the streamer is kind of shit, right? And I say that when I say it's kind of shit, it's because if you go watch the ESPN streamer, which I do all the time, I have it on my computer, I use it to watch games all the time. They only have 720p, which is 720p is the resolution which you could have gotten 20 years ago, and they're still running at that. When a lot of the competing streamers have much better feeds. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't have the camera; you can watch it better on the TV, but their infrastructure is kind of ass, and they're not something where it's a great partner. So they got a lot of things that they need to fix, and the whole WWE deal was built around them. They kind of saw what Peacock did with ESPN, with WWE, where they kind of used the wrestling fans to drive subscriptions and eyeballs coming in. And they thought, hey, maybe that'll work for us. So they did the PLEs, which is pay-per-views. They also did it on a downturn, and they were really kind of trying to use it to negotiate the next deal with cable companies. And then the MLB cable, the MLB local TV networks all went bankrupt, and ESPN got it right on the MLB network, so it didn't need WWE anymore. So a lot of the conversation, internally from ESPN did not ESPN in-house did not like WWE from the go. They didn't want it. They've never wanted it, and that's kind of conversation. The old CEO Eisner apparently did it as a favor for Nick and Ari. The new CEO, and really, if you go look at his press conference and the press stuff when he came in, the new CEO, I forget his name, but he's the guy who was running the parks, right? So he's the guy who was running live the parks, and he's a very nuts and bolts guy. He's a very, how much money is this going to make me, right? So to him, and it's actually really mentioned, they talk about what the problem. They were talking about selling ESPN. And he said to the stockholders, we're not going to sell it for now. And one of the big concerns that he raised was rights fees. Now, if you look, the amount that they're talking about ESPN, they specifically kind of called out indirectly the WWE rights, right? very interesting. And my take is, I believe that ESPN is being prepped for sale, right? So when you're prepping an asset like that for sale, you're trying to reduce costs, look to see if like the stuff that you have on your ledger is making you any money. And the biggest red herring on that ESPN ledger is the WWE contract, which is making them no money, right? That thing it doesn't fit on their audience. It isn't generated. They haven't put up a single number on their dedicated stat account since they actually got it. And I don't see how they're generating revenue off of that. And you're saying that they're going to run out the contract. I'm saying that if they have an out clause, they're going to take it, right? I feel like if ESPN and Disney can get out of the WWE deal, they will get out of this WWE deal, right?
You guys remember when we were talking about Diomaro saying that he was going to give them time to make some changes before he starts getting involved? Well,
yes.
Looks like he had enough time.
Yeah, we've been talking about this from the go, and I think that and I was basically going to bring this up. The fact that they're doing Saudi Mania next year, the fact that they're in the middle of a downturn, the fact that they're doing all this stuff kind of driving people away, is really not making them a good partner, I don't think, to ESPN, right? And again, given the people who are coming in, given the people who are running this now with how they're talking, I really don't see how that WWE contract survives. I'm saying it'll get cut the moment they can cut it, right?
That's how I feel.
I've seen nothing to dissuade me from that, and in fact, everything I've seen makes me think that they're desperate to get out of it, right? If they can, it may be a thing where they sell the asset and then whoever gets it refuses to just pick up the contract, right? Or it may be something where they have an out clause. We know Netflix had an out clause. We don't know ESPN had an out clause. So
do you know what the WWE views on their YouTube does? The averages that are about 200,000 to 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Of views on their ESPN YouTube account. So I'm just saying, not good there, but that's not that's not where people would go to look at wrestling stuff.
Well, I think part of the problem is and I've talked about this before, but I think that I remember we were talking about the second brand, but I think that it is kind of telling that WWE ran the SME show, right, this Saturday. And it was, they threw out a big card. They had the Knicks guys in there. And Collision was running right head with it. And Collision put a big number, right, for it. And, so effectively, it's not only not affecting, the counter competition, it's just, really not registering if, Collision was able to just put a big number against it, right? Now, it might be, the health of Collision, but I think some of that is to, these events right now they're really cold as a product and they're not delivering, and they weren't delivering when they were slightly hotter, but it's been a real kind of run of
Also NBC sort of buries them, not as making it a big go to Peacock to watch this. There's not really that much of an emphasis from either WWE or Peacock to push these shows really watch this on thing, because not sure why.
We'll get into this when we talk about the merger, but I still suspect that I still feel that part of the reason that ESPN NBC got out of it was because Comcast was looking to merge with WBD, and they were planning to have AEW as their wrestling product, which again makes sense because again if WBD owns part of AEW, and they didn't get enough of that out of the WWE deal. So I think the plan was always there. But they also, I think that we kind of know that I've said this. I suspect that at one point Comcast was going to be by WWE, and the whole Vince thing happened, and that blew up. And I don't think that NBC and Peacock as an entity have very good opinion of WWE. I don't think at this point do we
So what was also big news today, and I'm gonna let JML take the lead on this, was WWE announced with SiriusXM that their wrestling radio channel is being turned into a 24/7 WWE network.
I believe that was that busted open that is being turned.
Yeah, so with Sirius XM, it's called Pro Wrestling Nation. It's only been Pro Wrestling Nation for about a year now. Before it was called Fight Nation. It was basically a combat sports channel. If people that listen to go all the way back to Mauro Ranallo, he had a show on that show, and I think the guys from Post Wrestling, they used to have a show on there also. Even I think Ariel Helwani had the MMA Hour on that show too, like iteration on Sirius XM. That's how far it goes back. For that specific channel, but last year they rebranded into a pro wrestling only channel for 24/7 called Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7, and basically it busted open as the flagship, and basically almost a year and a month to the day, they are now being rebranded as WWE Radio. So
I find it funny because Jim Ross was like quoted from his podcast saying that he wished that the wrestling media would cover more than just 95% WWE, especially Busted Open, and here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I heard somebody describe it as basically the channel that like was doing 95% WWE and like 5% pricing MJF now has to like strike out the 5% where they're pricing MJF. Like I saw this and there was a lot of hand wringing about this. Now, I'm not saying this is. I mean, I'm saying this is a nothing burger in a way because effectively this was already kind of co-opted media. This is just going full on. I do think it is the funniest possible. It is the funniest possible time to brand your channel as like WWE only, right? Given everything else going on, and given how the ratings are playing, and given how cold that product is, like, yeah, we're gonna go WWE only. And as I was explaining to somebody, I said, like, my dad can figure out how to get a podcast from his phone or YouTube from his phone onto his car. So it's a very kind of I don't believe it's something that's going to affect the availability of content. It's obviously the branding about WWE being wrestling only, but it's a very weird spot. I do think that it highlights we need independent creators in the space. We have, thankfully, I think we have a good balance. We're like, hey, we're all independent creators here, but we have a good balance and a good set of people doing independent content for wrestling, thankfully, which is helpful. Where like people trying to drive like these crazy narratives from the top, or like the quote so Voice of Wrestling, legental activity, right? When like it's coming from WWE PR, the call is coming from inside the house. But I mean, I do think that like it's not as apocalyptic as some people are kind of saying, because I don't think ultimately like Sirius is that important, and it's not going to affect patterns. It is, again, I will say that it's bad that like WWE is trying to control like media, but they've always done this, and it's, I don't know if you saw, did you see the WWE club stuff?
$99 a year, man.
Yeah, and like the content that was supposed to be like WWE Club only is being released to everyone. So like essentially, like actually, like by the way, full disclosure, I was in the I think it was like WWE fan club back in the '80s, and you would like send $9, like $11 in. They would send you like a shirt and like a they send you the old magazine before the WWE match. Yeah, so that wasn't too bad. It's like you send them like a bit of money one time, and they
now you spend $100, you might get a discount on a shirt.
Mm-hmm. Now you spend $100 for the rights to get a notification email on like, hey, SummerSlam tickets are available.
Not SummerSlam tickets, but SummerSlam memorabilia, a ticket of SummerSlam memorabilia ticket, not an actual ticket that you can bring to the arena.
And you have to pay for that. It's not free. Like, by the way, like when you did the whole, they would send you the ability to maybe go free for a show. So that was actually like a pretty good deal back in the day. It wasn't bad. Like they're sending you tape. They would send you like a tape with like theme music, right? It was pretty cool actually. Shit. For $11, it wasn't too bad.
But JML, man, I know you had a take on this, and I wanted to hear it.
On what? The
radio.
The WWE radio. I don't think it's a complete nothing burger because with Sirius, I mean, they're trying. I know people think Sirius is like satellite radio is dead, but they keep putting it in cars so much for free for people to listen to. Like they're begging people to listen to it, and a lot of people that work during the day, that drive for a living, they will listen to Busted Open and listen to that. You know, a lot of that WWE fan base listens to that show, and they go ahead.
My take on that, yeah, I mean, like the person who's already listening to that show is not. It's like, what is the circle of the people who are listening to that were like, say, watching the G1 or watching Tokyo Joshi Pro or like watching CMLL? It's got to be small, right? So I agree with you, but like I'm also kind of like it is less than people are painting it as. Is my point.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll tell you, I think I'm kind of between you two guys, but the thing is if you're driving a long way, if you're driving, 45 an hour minutes, and you buy a new car, you're going to get a Sirius membership with that. And if you're a casual fan, you're looking for something to listen to, you're going to land on that station and you hear the stuff, you're going to think this is, you're going to think this is non-kayfabe or whatever. And
it's the gospel.
And for those people, that's just, it's troublesome. I think there is a problem with that. The biggest problem I have with this thing is the lineup's just horrible. I mean, WWE's always tried, even especially under Vince. I mean, everybody remembers the documentaries and the whole WWE Network stuff and the little cable channel and how terrible the documentaries try to do a Pravda job on everything that ever happened in the history of wrestling. But on top of it, it's just a terrible lineup. Like, I'm looking at this thing right now. Busted Open Heaven by Dave LaGreca, Bully Ray, Mark Henry, and Nick Nemeth. Yeah, that's a great listen. I mean, that's a great put up. But I mean, that's the only time that show makes news is if Bubba Ray Dudley runs his mouth. It's been crap forever. Not some wrestling live by Sam Roberts. What the hell does he bring to the thing? Unless he has a guest on, it's worthy of a name. He's terrible. Pete Rosenberg, hack. The Heartbeat, Natalia. That looks like the best possible show on here is the Heartbeat. Off the Ropes with Raj Desi, Mark Henry, and Tommy Dreamer. That's not a problem, and that'll get some great publicity. Yeah,
and Tommy Dreamer. Wow.
Yeah,
Tommy Dreamer.
I mean, yeah, it's like that. That's gonna not get neat yet. That won't be problematic. And then there's Busted Open After Dark. I mean, what in the heck are they gonna do? Read excerpts of Vince's lawsuits.
No,
it's painful. It's brutal. I wouldn't want anybody to have to listen to this crap. And that's the big, there is a problem here with the disinformation thing. The other large problem is this is garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I think about is my dad, my 78-year-old dad, can figure out. Just he has his phone, he hooks it to the car, which most cars are. You just hook up your phone, and whatever you're listening on the phone, be it a podcast, be it YouTube, be it whatever, you can just put it on there. Like, and I get the point where like Sirius is easy for people, but like it's not hard in the year of our Lord 2026 to like listen to whatever you want to listen to, right? So I mean, like, it is less. That's why I say like it's less than they painted at. And you're saying it's also kind of crap, right? It's not like they're like setting the world on fire on this. It's propaganda, but bad propaganda, right? But again, it's WWE fans, so I mean, some people might like listening to that. I mean, apparently people listen to like.
I think another problem with this is that fans are getting smarter. And people are getting smarter. And you remember, okay, this is kind of a weird example, but, Vince McMahon, when he's in the middle of all the federal criminal investigation, things like that, and he hires Citric, this huge PR. Well, that becomes a story. Well, who does Citric represent? Harvey Weinstein. They go through this load of people, and it ends up being a huge negative for Vince because then it comes out, well, he's getting this media crisis company that only criminals are involved with. And it's kind of like, I think it has this kind of effect too, where it's like, okay, why would I listen to this and expect to hear anything other than propaganda? Yeah, I think more people would be interested in it if they actually had kayfabe wrestling characters on it. I'll be honest with you. I mean, there's nothing on this that's no one's gonna listen to this thing and think, oh, this is a good hot take place
Yeah.
for WWE stuff. But that's kind of where, but there's not everybody's going to realize that if you're in the car and you're driving around and you got nothing else to listen to. I mean, Rosenberg's not going to tell the truth about anything. It's sad. There was that station could have done so much better than it has, and I think a lot of it's just been led down by the wrong. I think they've listened to the wrong people. Satellite radio is kind of a struggle anyway, because as this is something that kind of lives off the free subscriptions of people buying new cars or used cars off a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, I think they're going back a little bit to the old model where like they're trying to get like the good out of market stuff. So I wanted to listen to. I remember like back in the day, you'd have it so I could listen to CERN or listen to like local Chicago radio or something. If I want to listen about the Cubs or like coverage for like different teams, that was a good use for that. And like I think some of the greater playlists,
absolutely.
But it's a weird like model. I was gonna say that like one thing. See, like okay, so I was actually thinking is like, is there a good WWE like radio show right now
that only covers WWE?
Yes. I think
like it's hard.
We've had some friends of the podcast who actually do cover WWE, which are like, God bless them. It's here's the thing. Like I think that like I think they could get some, like if I was programming that, I could probably get them to get some good shows. The biggest problem for them is that, man, it's like if having like a real conversation around the product is not something that's going to get past the censors. Because like let's talk about the women, right? For example, let's talk about kind of like who they're pushing. We were talking about this beforehand. It's like I was like actually I have a personal theory and I'll share it with the team, right? Which is my theory, right? When I'm looking to cast who is going to be the guy or the face of the company, right? The thing I always think about is I want a guy who could host Saturday Night Live, right? Think about this, right? It's like I could totally have Cody host Saturday Night Live. I could have Kyle Fletcher host Saturday Night Live. I could have I was telling Larry that the only guy I could trust in WWE now, besides it might be Kaiser. I think he'd probably be great. Actually, Damian Priest, he was on the local shows in Puerto Rico. He was great. He did improv. He did comedy with the guys. He was fantastic in Spanish. But it's not what they're looking for. Like Roman, we know because when he did movies, they wouldn't give him any lines. That he's not really good at this kind of format, right? And he's doing some of it now, but he's not great at it. Like it's the kind of skill set that like somebody like Pat McAfee has. So you need that, because I always remember, like, I don't know if you people who remember back in the old days, Macho Man was a legendary late night guest, right? Like I think he was one of the he was the pinch hitter for like Arsenio Hall. Arsenio would bring him on anytime.
Are they still trying to make Pat McAfee the new Sylvester Stallone? Is that still happening?
I miss this.
Well, no, yeah, it was Ari's big friends with Pat McAfee, where I think Pat McAfee produces Ari's podcast, and so Ari was pushing him as like the next Sylvester Stallone. Ari Emanuel, right, was the head of TKO.
Well, that's a problem because Stallone wrote Rocky, and I don't know if McAfee can write. So they'll have to fix that. I also thinking, I hate to interrupt this, but you mentioned like what is a good WWE centric podcast, and all the ones I think about are just ones that like flamethrow at the tribalist stuff. I'm thinking, why is it I can think of like 10 good TNA podcasts, and I'm like Mike and JD at the very, very top, and I can think of 10 good I can think of 10 good. I think, yeah, absolutely. Mike's a badass, by the way. I can think of 10 really good New Japan podcasts. I can think of 10 really good lucha podcasts. I can think of we got our thing with, doing Puerto Rico and hitting the Olympics, some historical
you
stuff.
know what? I think
Where's the where's a straight up WWE? I think maybe the problems are their product's not worth talking about.
The best historical WWE podcast by far used to be Pritchard, and they hired him, right? So they hired him back.
Yeah.
So you can't get
also,
like the only.
I'm gonna throw this.
But there was also a problem with that because that was a misinformation op.
Yes. But when before he got he started playing footsie with WWE again, some of the historical stuff and like some of the stories you would hear are like as close as you would get to. Obviously, he's a Carney, so. But it would be as close as you could get to like the interest story. So again, there is product that you could put together, probably around historical stuff, probably around like some of that. But I don't know that they have the stomach to put something good together. And you were talking about the ESPN stuff, and I think it's kind of important. It's the same kind of deal. Whereas ESPN used to be a more journalistic outfit, and once it started partnering directly with the NFL and whatnot, it became more of a PR firm. Right, because essentially you can't.
And now the NFL owns 10% of the company or something ridiculous.
You can't do the stories or you can't do the coverage with the edge that you need because essentially, and this is a line with WWE. WWE is a company that's very good at like just getting rid of the edge off anything. Right. This is why they have to rate for talent, right? And it's hard for them to kind of like identify. It's like because I'm thinking about that like roster people. It's like. None of these guys. Is there any guy on that roster of podcasters that when they were wrestling, would you have trusted them to carry a program with a mic?
No,
absolutely not. I will say this though: if you're looking
Cody's
for
the closest,
but Cody's not doing a podcast. I'm talking about the guys.
Cody is doing a podcast, by the way.
True.
Arturo.
But not on the WWE radio.
Not a real podcast. It's not a real podcast. But I will say, Brian Solomon's Shut Up and Wrestle is pretty great if you're looking for classic WWF information. He's great. Also been on this show. Go ahead and listen to that.
Tell LaGreca to tell somebody to hire him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a pause here, but I'm gonna say this. So in this next segment, I'm gonna be talking with Sam Shipman of Wrestling Inc. and the Powerbombshells on Fight Game Media, where we delve into the Tony Khan media call from earlier today, and we also delve into some of the Janel Granr case. So go ahead and listen for that.
That's right.
Everybody, this is I'm here with Sam Shipman of the Powerbombshells. Welcome, Sam.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely crazy week of news. But I decided to focus in on this because you have been following this specific news, and we're talking about the Janel Granr story since day zero. Yeah. And I would like to have some comments with you on it because
sure.
Last week and a couple of weeks prior, there've been like a bunch of releases of information from one Janel Granr on her social media. Right. And I would like to go through that since I haven't really been talking about that. We've sort of been focusing on other things here on the show, mostly on the World Cup. But I just wanted to have like this for you because of all the coverage I read everywhere, Sam's is the most in-depth, most fair, least hyperbolic, just like the facts. And I just love your writing, Sam. Just gotta say that what you've been doing, it's excellent work. So
appreciate that.
Just want to for an audience.
It's definitely not an easy thing to cover. And so I try to, because I have read I've read her lawsuits, and then I read it when it was amended. I read her the information that she put out last, or the deposition, not the deposition, the declaration that she put out. And it is not easy things to read. And so if I can help people understand in depth without having to read what I read, then, I don't mind kind of being that buffer, but I obviously want to make sure that I understand what I'm talking about. It's been quite a lot to have to read it, but then I have to remind myself that I'm just reading it. I didn't have to live it. And so, but yeah, it's been a lot, and there's some really interesting information has come out in the last few weeks. Janel Granr has started an Instagram. It feels like, for a while we weren't hearing anything from her, and it sounds like, it feels to me like she finally is getting her voice back, because she's not been able to speak. And so now she is, and we're kind of seeing some of the things she's finding out, we're finding out too, and she's finding out in real time, like some of the information that's come out about what was it because of the shareholders lawsuit. There are, I want to say, like 30 something depositions. It may even be more than that. And of course, not all of them have been redacted yet or have been made public, but from what has been made public, she's finding out a lot of information, and then she's sharing that with people, which I think is really important, because a lot of what she has been able to uncover corroborates what she's been saying all along. And the shareholders lawsuit, while it did not go forward, which is unfortunate, but also the information is out there, and it feels like the information is going to keep coming. And the more we find out, the more, like I said, the more it seems to kind of corroborate what she's been saying all along.
Yeah, because if you look at what he's been actually charged with in the civil suit, if you look at that, it's pretty run bare, especially when they talk about the details of, like, the signal calls. Like, the thing that was big to me was getting Ari Emanuel on audio talking about the Department of Justice lawyers, and like his link to them, and like, oh yeah, we'll be able to get you off. Don't worry about it. And like getting it on audio is nuts. And that makes sense how they got to the point.
Shout out to Brandon Thurston for pushing for that to be released to the public, because it's one thing to read those words, but it's another thing to hear those words being spoken.
Yeah, it was pretty gross. It's just you think about these things, right? You think about people in higher positions because of their money, because of their status, and like them being able to say these things and face no repercussions. And so far, there have been no repercussions faced. But so she released all that information. I think the latest post was from last week, and it just gets really. You just get this feeling of dread, and you just feel downtrodden reading like someone going through this kind of abuse, right? And it being so well known within the company. That's the thing that gets me. It's like it's well, it's not even a secret. It's like open. It's open. It's on the open.
There's so many people that are complicit, in one way or another, and I think some of the information one thing that I think that she posted that is really telling and really important was the readout from Michelle McKenna, who is a former board member, and she joined the board during the investigation, which Janel has pointed out once again, she was never interviewed for that investigation about her. And she talks about on her Instagram about how she got a team, a law, she paid 6 figures to get a law team to help her. They were prepared to speak to these members of the board during the investigation, and they closed the investigation without ever speaking to her, which that sounds extremely telling to me, that they didn't even bother talking to her. But going back to Michelle McKenna, she says, like, they asked her, like, did you think this was a consensual relationship? And she says no. It felt more nefarious than that, I think was like the term that she used. And then they asked her, do you think it's sex trafficking? And she's like, I would need like the definition. And then once she learned what the definition was, she said, yes, I think that's what was happening here. And she also says that she believes that the anonymous emails that came out were from Nick Khan, which I think is pretty incredible. And she also says she thinks that she's not positive, but she thinks other people think that it's Nick Khan. And then Janel also posted the readout from Jeffrey Speed, who is a current board member. And they talked about it too. And he confirmed that although they didn't see the text messages were read to them. And it confirms that the text messages were about her to Brock Lesnar. So these depositions from a completely different trial are corroborating what Janel Granr has been saying from day one.
Yeah. And I think that's, it's weird to say that's great. I'm not going to say that. Like,
sure, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but like it's great. It is
gotta
in
feel
her
vindicating
best.
for her.
Yeah, it's got to feel better for her to feel vindicated by having these words like become public. And people see arbitration. They see, oh, this is settling. They see like the thing dismissed with prejudice, but we're not there yet.
No, there's still
I want to make clear that we're not there yet.
No. There, I think from the way, let me see if I can pull up because Brandon Thurston like said it a specific way that I think helped me to kind of understand, how, because I'm not a lawyer. And he says here that the parties in the Janel Granr lawsuit against WWE and Vince McMahon said they've signed an agreement to go to private arbitration. And then, so they were not in arbitration yet. They've signed an agreement to go to arbitration. Yes. And then within 5 days, which this was 2 days ago, they will file to dismiss the case so it cannot be refiled. And then a judge has to approve that. Then once they do that, then it's perhaps is going to the arbitration process. So I think that it's not over. I don't think it's going to be over as quickly as people think, because the law can move slowly. And I don't know if we don't know if Vince McMahon's going to try to fight her on this still, or if he's going to come back with some number and she's going to be like, that's not nearly enough, or who knows how this is going to play out. So I think it's too soon to say for sure. I mean, perhaps this is wrapped up in a few weeks, but I really don't know. We've seen this case has been going on for a long time. So it'll be really interesting. I don't think, and it doesn't, I think the one thing that regardless of what happens, if they do go to arbitration, whatever it is, it feels like Janel is not going to be quiet. It feels like now that she's speaking and she's putting this information out there, she's not going to stop, which I think is great. I think it's incredible that she's found her voice, and she can, because she's, she has said many times, like, I did not want to do this. I did not want to file this lawsuit. I waited till the last possible minute to do so, but I felt like I had no choice, and I felt like I had to do it. So I can only imagine how this must be weighing on her mentally and emotionally. And now she's got all this information coming out from these readouts and from these depositions. And she's even finding out information that she didn't know. Like there's all these people who are higher up and very powerful people who may have seen photos or videos of her in compromising positions or in positions that you don't want people you don't know seeing you in. And I can't imagine what that must feel like, knowing that these very powerful people could have viewed these things without your knowledge.
Yeah, obviously, we're also going to refer to the government seizing Vince McMahon's cell phone.
Right.
And like, there's so much there. And then like we talked about the deleted signal messages and them admitting to it. And that's why they definitely had to settle, because they admitted to wrongdoing within that. Like,
well, and the judge even was like, I don't trust you because I can see these messages have been deleted, and you need to prove to me that beyond a reasonable doubt that there wasn't something going on here. You weren't hiding stuff. And then, right, like not long after the judge said that, they settled. So that tells me we don't want to have to go under oath.
Yeah, it's very strange to me that, because TKO is part of this lawsuit that they
Yeah.
haven't tried to, to solve this. And it's this case has been handled extremely in the way that usually Vince McMahon handles these lawsuits of trying to wait the person out till they lose their funds. And luckily, I say luckily, luckily Janel Granr is in a position where that's not like a worry for her and for her representation. She has really great representation. I gotta say that. Like once I found out who was actually representing her, it's like incredible. And
she has a really great team around her.
Yeah. Miss Callis is man, she's great. She's great. And I want to say this, like, I want to thank you for doing all this coverage for me and making sense of it for me. Because like you, I'm not a lawyer, but I do like absorbing this kind of knowledge in pro wrestling. And, a lot of times the coverage in pro wrestling, and I'm saying pro wrestling in particular, is always mired in like secrecy and like double speak and all that. But with this, we have court records. We have people going on the record. We have all this. And
exactly.
I think it's really brave of her to come forward with her experience and doing all that. And I really, when you look at the wrestling community, there's like reaction to this from certain people, and you're just like, wow. And like, I'm not even just talking about like the wrestlers, or I'm also talking about the fans, and like, it's very disheartening to like read all this stuff of like, I knew that's all they were going after was the money, and now finally the truth will come out. And I'm like,
the truth has come out. You just aren't reading it because you don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to be
posting it. Like she's posting the truth.
Yeah, and like if you just read any of this, and this is corroborated. This is on legal documents, people. Read this, and you can make your mind in any way you want to after reading it. But after I've read these, after I've watched these things on YouTube, I heard like Thurston, and I heard you guys talk about it. I'm just flabbergasted about it. And by the way, where can people read your writing, by the way, Sam?
I write for Wrestling Inc. and I also do a little bit of writing for a website called Let Them Wrestle. I'm actually working on, I haven't written for them in a while, but I've got a couple pieces that I'm working on for them. So that's where you can find my writing. And actually, even if you go to my social media, I have my link tree is in my bio, and that will take you directly to my work.
Yeah, definitely follow Sam on social media. I especially love following her because she was on one of the best. She always asked the best questions on these media calls. So like today, she was on the media call with Tony Khan, and I was following it through her social media, and like I'm just reading through it. I'm like, thank you, Sam. Finally, someone's asking something. Because she asked things in the right way to get an answer from Tony. Because Tony always has this, we're excited, we're definitely going to do that, and it's something that we definitely see happening. It's definitely that's the Tony political answer is usually what you get. But I would love to talk about that.
I've been on that end before where I've gotten answers like that too. So I definitely. Sometimes I will get a good answer, and sometimes I get that answer.
Yeah. But you got to ask Tony something in the right way, and then he'll be like, "Oh, okay." And I liked what he told you, but let's talk about it. So it was the press call today because Redemption is going to be this weekend.
Yep.
And there was a couple of things asked. I particularly like the stuff about talent because usually he's been like mum's the word on all that. Everything's like, and so first thing I want to talk about is of course, Sammy Guevara didn't really write anything wrong in his bio, but people took that out of like proportion.
Yeah.
Because, people see something and say, oh, that means. But really, if you looked at his bio, it just went world champion because he has one half of the ROH World Tag Team Champions.
Yeah. Well, he has been. They did drop the titles recently because Beast Mortos was having some visa issues. He's good now. He's back. He'll be back he'll actually be at Redemption on Sunday. He'll be competing in the ladder match that was just announced last night. But yeah, Ollie, from what he said, and apparently from what Tony said on the call today, he never even had AEW in his bio. So he was like, and he said Sammy messaged him and was like, I wasn't even trying to like start anything. Like I wasn't trying to like, he's like, I was just messing around with my bio, and people, you know, started jumping to conclusions. And he was like, Tony was saying that Sammy was like in good standing with them. He said people were, he believes were kind of unfair to Sammy, and he didn't appreciate, Tony did not appreciate that. And he said that, you know, Sammy's still there. Nothing has changed on that end. And, he said he did point out, he said, it seems like when things are going great for us, that certain people like to find things to talk about. And he was like, but then they either end up misrepresenting it, it's misinformation, or they just completely make things up.
Yeah, and this was definitely something that's made up. Along with, I couldn't believe he actually talked about Tay Mello contract status. I was really surprised.
I was too. I was like typing, because I was typing as I was listening, and I was like, whoa, he's like being completely honest about what's happening here, and he's being transparent and setting the record straight. And because then he even said today, he's like, you know, I'm busy. I have a lot to do. He's like, I don't have time to get on the internet every time there's incorrect information out there. And he was like, but I felt strongly enough about this that I wanted to talk about it. So
yeah, because he basically said that he will grant her release in a couple weeks, which, you know, I think, you know, when it comes to these contracts, and I've read some really stupid comments from people about what's good for someone, what's better for someone, and I'm like, you can't decide what's good or bad for somebody if you're not them.
Right.
So,
yeah.
like,
we're not living their lives.
Yeah. If they're like if they're not satisfied in their place of work, a lot of people are, even if you're being paid well. Even if you're being treated well, some people just aren't satisfied.
Right. And from what Tony said on the call, was that after the match, after Ty J faced Divine Dominion on Collision, Ty came to him and said, I love AEW, I love the locker room, but I need to step away from wrestling. And asked for her release. And Tony said that he was shocked, and they had a really good conversation, and he's going to grant her release. So I was like, it sounds like she's stepping away from wrestling, period, not just AEW, but it sounds like just in general. And that doesn't necessarily mean she's retiring. Maybe she's just stepping away from now. And because, you know, she's a mom now, and she's got a lot of things going on. So, you know, who knows, you know, why she felt that, you know, that she needs to take the hiatus or the break, or she asked for her release instead of, you know, just sitting at home trying to figure things out. She went to him and asked for her release. So, I mean, maybe it sounds like she was taking a break from wrestling just in general. And I was really surprised that Tony, you know, was open about it, like you said, and that he announced on the call, I'm going to grant her release. And I was like, I paused before I typed it, because I was like, that's what he said, right? Like, I'm not going to, like, I didn't mishear that, because I don't want to tweet the wrong thing. But I was like, no, that's what he said.
Yeah, I did want to like put this in there because people are sort of forgetting this. She is a lifetime judoka, like from an early age, like since she was a kid. So if you think about it, she spent her entire life falling on her back. Yeah. And when you reach a certain age, like in your martial arts or doing something like that,
right?
Your body just sometimes, you know, not everybody can be Dustin Rhodes, you know.
Right.
Not everybody can do this for like 37 years.
Yeah.
But like, I understand. I was there before because I used to do, I used to do martial arts my whole life, and then I reached a certain age, and then you just lose this sort of like drive for it. And I see pro wrestling as a martial art because like it's sort of like a performance, and it's an athletic performance, and you have to do these things, and sometimes you just don't want to anymore. and that's nothing on you. That's nothing on anybody. It's not like saying like you're a quitter. It's just like sometimes like this wrestling thing, it's taken over her life for like the past, the past decade plus.
And her child is young. Her child is a toddler. So like that's a lot, on her as it is, and not counting, like you said, the years of judoka and wrestling and all of that. That's a ton on her body on top of being a mom. So I can imagine that it's really, it could be, I can see how that would be really hard on someone.
Yeah. And like, in like her case, in Ruby Soho's case, I'm never going to judge a mom for wanting to be a mom. That's never gonna be a thing for me. I'm never gonna like judge people for wanting to do right by their family, by their kids.
Sure.
So like I wish her all the best. And
me too.
It's just funny. We get to talk about, oh yeah, Anna Jay's just been injured. They just recently re-signed Jungle Boy. I think they did renew her deal also.
He did say today that Anna did extend her contract. He didn't give any specifics other than she did extend it, but he said she's injured. She just had an MRI last week, and they're kind of just waiting to see, I guess, what happens next as far as her injury goes. And so, but she's still there. She's not leaving. She extended her contract, like you said. Jack just signed a new deal as well. He signed it because I ended up actually covering it for Wrestling Inc. That video we saw him signing his contract was legitimate. That he signed his contract in that moment, which I think is crazy, but also kind of cool that like we got to see it like play out. And like that's when it wasn't just for that segment. Like he was legitimately signing his contract and then stuck the knife he made. He stuck it in it.
Because like like when he started his New Japan run, when he did New Japan Strong, he had like he was saying that was the legit AEW contract that had expired, and he ripped it up. And I think it's funny that Jack is going to be tied to this whole contract thing for the rest of his career, and he's only 26, 27?
Something like that. Yeah.
He's got a whole rest of his life to be doing this. So, good for them. Good for them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people sort of, if you read online, have been like hyper focused on what is Hangman doing, because he showed up for that collision and there's been not really much follow up since.
Yeah. Tony addressed that today too. And he said that he was like, well, it's only been a couple of weeks. And he's like, they did reference it on Collision that, he came back, and he's like, he came back and, with saying that his intention was, I'm a man of my word. I'm not going to challenge for the world championship, but look at all these titles I can challenge for. He made cases for all of them. And he was like, so I think we'll see Hangman back pretty soon. That the way he said it, if Hangman's not at Redemption, I expect him to be back within, the next, maybe he'll be at Dynamite or Collision next week. It sounds like he's on his way back, and they're probably waiting for some stuff to play out on Redemption, because he made that comment a couple times. Like he's basically was saying, let it play out, watch Redemption, and you'll see like there's going to be some things that happen that's going to be impactful, basically, is kind of where he was going with it. So he obviously is not going to give away too much, but he made it sound, so like I said, if Hangman's not on Redemption, it sounds like he will be back in the mix pretty soon.
Yeah, I think like that, and then we'll tie it into Hangman's best buddy. It's where a lot of the conversation online is, where are these guys? Why haven't I seen them on TV? I feel that way too, because I love both of them as wrestlers. These are two of my favorite guys to be watching.
Yeah.
And like, there was that little report the other day where we got like, Redemption was changed because MJF suggested that Kevin Knight be the challenger and all this stuff, and he couldn't because of the injury. I think Tony did talk about the injury also, how the injury was worse than they initially thought. And hence like the changes. I think he's been really it's oddly Tony being really open on this call, which I like.
I think he must have been he has probably seen some of the same things, and I think he was trying to try to set the record straight as much as he could without also giving away, like, he doesn't want to spoil like what he's doing for Redemption and on the road to All In. Like, he's trying to keep that quiet, but also like I maybe calm some people a little bit. Like, this is, there's reasons for this. There's storyline or injury, like you said with MJF. Like, he said that MJF it's not a serious injury that's going to take him out for a long period of time. And his words was, I think he'll probably be back soon. I don't know. I don't think he means soon as in Redemption, but hopefully I'm hoping it's soon as in Grand Slam Mexico, because he gets so much heat down there. And I think that it would be good for him. So I think the fans would want to see him, but we do have Kenny Omega on the poster now. So hopefully that means Kenny Omega will be in at Grand Slam, regardless of if MJF is there or not.
Speaking of heat,
go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of heat, what they're showcasing at Comic-Con, which is what Tony Khan was saying him and Swerve are going to be at.
Yeah.
Imagine you think Swerve, they don't value Swerve since they sent him to do all these big media things. I don't think they don't. They don't.
Yeah, did they? Who was it? He was at the with the Jags when they did their. He announced one of their picks, and
one of the draft picks.
Yeah, didn't he get a picture with? Was it
Roger Goodell?
Was it Michael Keaton that he had a picture with?
Yeah, and also, he's one of the big popsicles that they're having for the Comic-Con. I think he has like a giant fist. So
right. They've got him. They're featuring him in those ads for those headphones, and and he's in that. So it seems like that they highly value him, and he was like, yeah, because when somebody asked, he's like, it's funny that you mentioned that because I'm gonna be with Swerve at Comic-Con, and so it sounds like, and he heavily hinted that he'll be at Redemption somehow. I mean, maybe he's not, but it felt the way he was talking about Swerve made it seem like he's probably going to be involved in something. And so I don't think he's been left on the back burner, even though it kind of feels like, and I understand fans, of course you want to see your favorites and things like that. But sometimes it's just, and he said Swerve's got other outside projects that he's been doing. And so he's been away doing those things too. And so, which is nice that they're allowed to, like Tony allows them to do other things, and so that wrestling is not their only focus, that they can go have these lives that involve other things.
Hey, I love Swerve. I'm a big supporter of Swerve. Swerve's a big supporter of me. I think I'm the only guy that got screenshotted for a tweet from him. So thanks,
nice.
Swerve. I do want to say this because there's this story that's been brewing. If you're an AEW fan, specifically if you're an AEW women fan, and I don't mean of the women wrestlers, I mean if you're a woman who's a fan of AEW, there's been a big group that you could join and pay into a subscription service called AEW Heels. And I believe we were the first one on any of these calls to really ask a question about what's happening.
Yeah, so which is kind of funny. So I'm not a member of Heels, but back before it launched, they had a preview. And when I wrote for Daily DDT, I was invited to attend. And so it was back when, because Brandy Rhodes created Heels, and I was invited to attend just to kind of see what the event was about and to write about it. And so it was a really cool thing. It was also, the timing was maybe not the most ideal because the pandemic happened right after, and they were asking women to spend, I think it was like at the time was $50 for a year subscription, and that felt kind of not the greatest. But for the women who, from what I understand, the women who have joined Heels have really found community there. They really have a lot of support and appreciation for each other, and like they were doing these like monthly events where different wrestlers would come on and they'd have conversations about certain things. Or like somebody would come on and talk about mental health, or they'd come on and talk about like character work. They had like makeup artists come on and talk about things like, so they just had like a variety of topics. And then like if there was a female wrestler that was doing a meet and greet, then if the Hills member would get to meet that person for free.
Yeah.
And they have like, I believe if I'm not mistaken, like some of the Hills can buy tickets together at a show so that they can sit together and watch wrestling as a group, which I think is really cool. But then, so obviously after Brandy left, Amanda Huber was involved and Aubrey Edwards was involved for a while. And from my understanding, from what I've been able to gather, both of them have stepped away from Heels. And then it's kind of just gone on hiatus, but these women aren't getting any answers. It's been several months now. They pay, and it's not a monthly subscription, it's an annual subscription. But I saw a few women talking about how before the end of last year, they were really pushing gift subscriptions, where you would gift, like buy a subscription and gift it to someone else, like a friend or a family member. And several people said that they were kind of heavily pushing that. And a few people said that they purchased gift subscriptions for, friends or family members. And then the group just went on, then the program just went on hiatus. They're not getting any answers. And I think a few people have said like they've gotten some discount codes for tickets, but they're like, that doesn't do us any good. Like if we can't get to the shows or if we're in other countries, or also because of what we pay per year, like that's not equivalent to what what we pay for, and we're not getting any answers. So I decided that I was going to write about it for Let Them Wrestle, because when I went to the G1, I was talking to Mel, my co-host, and talking to my sister Nikki, and we were talking about going to, take a picture somewhere, and this woman overheard me, and she said, "Oh, are you in AEW Hills?" And I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "I thought that they were on hiatus." And she was like, "Well, some of us are here. We bought tickets to tonight's show, and we were trying to meet up." So, like, these women they still want to be in community, that they are attending other wrestling shows and then trying to come up their own meetups and things like that, because it's that important to them, and they're not getting any answers. And so after that, I was like, you know what? Maybe I was like, nobody's really talking about it other than the members themselves. And so I have put it out there that if any AEW Hills members want to talk about it, and it's not to say, I'm not saying air grievances or anything like that, but if you want to talk about like, hey, this has been my experience, this is what has happened, this is what they're doing, which isn't really anything, they're not telling us anything, and this is what I'd like to see happen, then, please come talk to me. You can follow me. You can DM me if you don't want your name, if you don't want your answers to be out there publicly. I could totally get that. You can message me on Blue Sky or Twitter. I'd like to just get, I want to write, because I'm not a Hills member. I would like to hear directly from members so that I can get your story out there. And so I did ask Tony about it today, and he seemed completely caught off guard by it. And he gave me a response that I wasn't expecting. I assumed we'll just be like, oh, thanks for asking. We're trying to figure things out. Hopefully we'll have some information soon. Like, that's what I expected. He says that it was started years ago, and he's not an active participant, and he'd have to ask someone on the business side, and maybe he'll have more info later. I guess he was being honest on the one hand, but on the other hand, like, that project has AEW in the name. It's AEW Heels. Your talent has been coming to these monthly like meetups that they had. Your people who worked for you when it was Amanda Huber and Aubrey Edwards, they are your employees. Like, how do you not know what is happening with that? And I get it. He's got a full plate between AEW, the Jags, Fulham. Like, I understand that, but like, how do you not have an answer for that? Or he just, like I said, he can seem completely, and I know he was probably in redemption mode, but I also I was surprised. I mean, I guess it was good that he was honest about it, but I think if I were a paying member, that's not an answer I would want to hear.
No, I've noticed like over the recent couple years, AEW has sort of like fallen back on some of their outreach, because they used to do a lot of community outreach like the week of the shows.
Yeah.
You would see this on like the wrestler vlogs that they would post, like, Uno or Sammy or whoever, they like talk, that they show like them going and doing like community outreach, going to the Boys and Girls Club, doing things like that. And they'd show like highlights of doing the heel stuff. And I think that's sort of been where a little bit where AEW has been faltering is sort of their fan outreach. And this is a big program that they started. And I did want to say this because I know there's a huge female fan base made up of women. That's why I created my own show with that, the commentary with which I would love to have you on, Sam, by the way.
I would love to be on it.
Yeah, I like it. I think when you hear this and you hear women like in the space talk about it among themselves and be like feel comfortable being able to express their opinions without the judgment, because you go in these online spaces and you see like how people are just kind of disregarded, and especially if you have your profile picture and people know that you're a woman, you're just instantly like, nah. But that's not how I was raised. That's not how I talk to people in general.
Yeah.
And I think that things like heels is great because it creates community. It harvests like your fan base going out there and going hard for you, like as a street team, and they want to be there and they pay for it because they like this camaraderie.
Right.
And I'm happy that you brought this up.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm happy that you brought this up. That was all I'm going to say.
I was just going to say, but I mean, that even goes back to like the gift subscriptions. Like they feel strongly enough about this community that they would gift a subscription to someone in their lives that they care about because they want them to be part of this community too. And so I think that says a lot about the community that they have built. So it's really disheartening to see that it's not only on hiatus, but it almost seems like an afterthought. And it seems like it, from Tony Khan's answer, seemed like it wasn't even on his radar. And again, I know he has a lot going on, but there are a lot of people who work for that company. And like, there's got to be other people who can be like you said, in the community outreach stuff, like somebody has to know like that what's happening, or know that, hey, these people this is on hiatus. Like we need to get these women some answers because they're paying us money.
Yeah, because I know that Amanda and Aubrey were there. That's not their role in the company. They were kind of doing that as like an offshoot, like that's on their extra time. So I'm just like, they know how much that means, but as AEW grows, their first duties is to whatever their department they're assigned to.
Right, of course.
And these extra projects sort of like fall off, and then you're like,
they do, which is unfortunate. And I mean, there's definitely some growing pains, and that's why I wanted to bring some visibility to it, because I feel like I keep seeing these things come up in my timeline, and even from women that I don't even follow, I've just seen it come up in my timeline, and these women just feel like they're just not being heard, and it's frustrating that they're not getting any answers. And I was like, well, I'm in a position to ask, I might as well. And of course, I mean, that's the answer you got. And while it's not the greatest, he's at least aware of it now. I don't know that, I don't know that helps anything. I don't know if he will, like, he's obviously, they've got Redemption this weekend and All In's coming up, and then All Out, and they're clearly full-scale football season starting. So it may not be on the top of his list, but maybe somebody listening within AEW heard it and was like, you know what? Let me try to figure something out, or let me try to help, or at the very least, like, put these people's subscriptions on hiatus, or if you're not coming back, refund them. Yeah,
because they obviously created a community. They're doing something out of it, and I've talked to people, and I'm gonna say like quiet, but like a lot of people are talking, but they're so loyal to each other in the Heels program that they don't want this sort of like getting out there besides what they've said. And I appreciate that. Like what you said, if you have anything to say, please DM Sam. So she's like, you don't have to reveal anything. You don't have to do anything.
Keep your information private. Like if you don't want to, have your name out there, that's totally fine. I just want to make sure that I'm representing this information correctly, because again, I'm not an AEW Heels subscriber, but I feel like it's important to talk about it. And so, and I don't want you to say anything that's gonna, I don't want you to feel like, oh, she just wants me to like, rail against Tony Khan or AEW or anything. And it's nothing like that. Like, I just want to know, because I want to know your perspective, because again, I'm not in that community. So what have you experienced? And like, first of all, what have you experienced? Why is Hills important to you? Why do you like it? What are your feelings on what's been happening? And what kind of outcome do you want to see? Like, what would make things right? Or if this isn't coming back, like, what would you like to see happen? If they're not going to bring it back, my hope would be that they would refund everybody.
But,
or again, I'm not trying to start anything or anything like that, so I don't want you to feel like, oh, she's just trying to come at Tony Khan or something like that. I want to just I want to be a representative for you and hear what you have to say. And again, you can be anonymous if you want to. You can just say, hey, this is my experience, but I don't want my name out there, because I don't, that's completely fine. I just want to kind of get a feel for what these women are going through and what they're experiencing with this.
Yeah. And, if people did want to reach you, Sam, this is Sam Shipman of Wrestling Inc. of Fight Game Media, How and Half of the Powerbombshells. Where can people reach you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Samantha1713. And I think it's like .bs. I think it's bsky.social. They're very long at.
Yeah.
And then over on Twitter, it's the same thing, but it's Samantha_1713. If you can't remember that, it's a lot. I know there's numbers. Even contact Powerbombshells. That's my podcast with my co-host Mel. If at Powerbombshells is easier for you to remember, contact us there. Mel checks it as well, but I typically check our social media. We're on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram, all under at Powerbombshells. So you can also reach out to me there if that's easier.
Yeah, all those links, including Sam's Linktree, and I'll also throw in Mel's stuff there too, because I love Mel too.
Yes.
Powerbombshells are my favorite twosome of women every Sunday. Every Sunday. Yes. When can people watch you guys?
Yes, every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, usually. And if there's a pay-per-view on Saturday, then we move our show up a day. Because we do our pre-show, which we'll be doing this week, where we try to get you hyped for the card. And we make our predictions, and a lot of times we are not right about our predictions, but it's still fun. But yeah, Sundays at 1 o'clock on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel is where you can find us.
Yes, obviously, follow them there. Subscribe to their channel. Subscribe to the Fight Game Media channel.
Yes, please.
And of course, I also want to. I always do this on every show, but thank you, Garrett, for introducing me to the Powerbombshells. Sam, especially, has been a really big part of me growing this channel. So thank you, Sam, for coming on here, giving us your thoughts on the Janel Granr thing, giving us the live report of your phone call on the live media call with Tony Khan for Redemption. This is Sam Shipman of the Powerbombshells of Fight Game Media of Wrestling Inc. And thank you for coming here. And I'm going to give you the last word because I've been talking over you too much.
Oh, no, you're fine. Thank you. Again, thanks for having me. I appreciate you giving me this platform. And again, like I said, the Janel Granr stuff is not fun to cover, but it's an important story. And so I'm glad to have different places, my own podcast and in writing, and then coming on, your show. You've been a big supporter of ours, which we appreciate. We love you at Powerbombshells and at Fight Game Media. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to coming back.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? This is Brandon Washburn, one of the co-owners here with Winter Circle Pro Wrestling, inviting you guys to make sure you check us out July 17th, Hunger for More, and for all news and updates, matches, as well as interviews, promos, anything content-based when it comes to Winter Circle Pro. Be sure to follow us on social media. That's at Winter Circle Pro. On Instagram, that's at Winter Circle Pro PW. On Twitter, and of course, Winter Circle Pro Wrestling on Facebook. And be sure to tap into the YouTube, and that's youtube.com/@Winter Circle Pro.
And I want to thank Sam for coming on and giving us some great information for her work on the Janel Granr case. BJ, I know you and her have been working on that, but she's been on there since day zero and been like really ahead on a lot of things. If you guys like have any like really, really big questions on that, go ahead and hit her up, see her writing. And also, if you guys have any information on AEW Heels and whatever is going on there, go ahead. She's willing to take your questions and any statements that you're willing to give her. But we're back here, guys, and me and Sam were talking about the Tony Khan media call from today, and he let off some stuff about ratings.
I want to take this space because I sent it privately to BJ, but I want to like take this space and congratulate him because effectively you're vindicated, man. BJ was talking like 2 years ago was talking about like how the numbers on streaming for HBO were good. And I think from that point on, I think I've taken up the cause. I know Dave Meltzer's taken up the cause, and we're talking about it. And it was kind of funny because we were talking about Dynamite recently put up a number that arguably when Dave and I were looking at the numbers, or I mean, like Dave was looking on us, like I was looking at that, and we kind of went, "Whoa, this is probably the most watched TV show for wrestling of the year so far," because where Dave and I kind of looking at it and going like when BJ put out his piece, and you said it was Q1 2024, right?
It was actually like March 30th because everybody thought it was an April Fool's joke.
Right.
It was March 30th, 2024, which is close to 2 years, which is a ridiculous amount of time to be talking about a ratings article.
Well, I mean, a lot of things have gone on, but like at the time, the TBS reach, and this is the subscribers for TBS in the US this is reported numbers, it's public record, you can find it, was about 69 million, right? And the numbers for HBO at the time, I'm looking for the US audience. I don't have the number specifically for them, but it's probably like around 45 million, right? And from that point on, right? So from now, 2025, for like numbers for 2026 Q3, which is where we are now, estimated number for TBS is 58 million, which is down about 11 million from like when BJ reported the news. And HBO is now currently at around 66 million, which is up like 20 million from when he reported it. So right now, HBO has a bigger reach in the US than any cable network. I believe the cable subscribers, I saw the report from like early this month, it's like 60 million total US cable paying subscribers. So that means HBO in the US has 6 million more viewers than cable, right? This is like total cable subscribers, right? And TBS comes close to having the same amount of viewers as total cable, right? It's a little bit less, right? So what this implies is essentially that, like, by any reasonable analysis, there probably are more Dynamite viewers on HBO than there are on TBS, right? That wasn't the case like a year ago, but it's probably the case now based on that. And it was funny because like we're doing the story and like we're kind of covering this number, and I didn't know where Dave was. I was like on the beach like writing this up because I saw the number and I was like, oh shit, and then I like checked everything and I was like, oh, and then I put this out and like Dave was talking about it. I didn't realize Dave was in Arena, Mexico. So like all these like WWE fans are freaking out about it, and people are like going, nobody watches HBO, and I'm like, I want to say to this person, like, look, the first wrestling show I ever saw in my life, right? One of the first wrestlers that I ever saw, I remember this clearly. A friend of mine had like the his dad had the closed circuit MSG, right? This is like in the 70s. And so I watched the WWE on HBO, right? Like in the 70s, right? So like,
yeah,
people have been watching HBO for like forever, and people who have HBO watch HBO. And any informal poll I've done of people online and say, hey, are you watching Dynamite? I'll be on a Discord or a live channel, and people are like watching Dynamite. Like, what are you watching on? I'll ask it periodically. Like, are you watching on TBS, HBO, or some other way? And the majority of the people are watching on HBO. Now, that is a biased sample, but people telling me that people aren't watching on HBO are completely insane, right? It doesn't make any sense, right?
I will say that every poll I've seen like that's been heavily weighted towards HBO Max. Not like I'm not made it as the results are heavily towards HBO Max. That seems to be where people online who follow AEW prefer watching. the
I think
shows.
the thing that also happens is HBO, the composition of HBO subscribers is more heavy in the demo, right? That's the other thing that happens. So
Yeah, younger.
like when Dynamite pulls a number on TBS, that means that number is probably much more attractive on HBO because they're right now they're probably doing a bigger number total and a bigger number on the demo on HBO, right? Because of the split, right? So like essentially that means like less demo people have TBS than they have HBO because again, like I'm saying, is young people are watching streaming. Does that make practical sense? Yes, right? And all the data kind of lays this out, right? But like wrestling fans just don't seem to understand this when we explain it. And essentially, they're by any measure, right? Reasonable measure, reasonable estimate. There's a good argument that like Dynamite right now, over the last 12 weeks, is beating every wrestling show there is, right, on TV. And even Collision is putting up like big numbers in the demo on TBS. Like, so we don't even know. Like, we know from older data that like Collision does really well on rewatch. There was a lot of people watching it day after on streaming because like they'd run on Saturday night. But I know a lot of people watch it on Sunday, Monday, that kind of thing because they catch up on it. And so it was like really hilarious because like there's also like this rant from Brian in Wrestling Observer complaining about the AEW and how they're doing the shows and they could do better. And I'm like, but like he said it the day before, we got this number that like, oh, Dynamite just did like a huge like top 5 all-time rating for them, which again on it's just insane. And the reason I say that like BJ's vindicated is because like now TK didn't confirm the number from HBO directly, but on a Yahoo, like he had both a Yahoo Finance interview, you can look that up, and then he had the media call, and in both places he was touting the ratings as like being extremely good and being extremely excited, and he was kind of intimating that his partners were really happy about it, right? So like he was like very bullish on it, which again, like you got to like read the tea leaves a little bit with Tony. If Tony's coming out like that upfront on it, it means that he kind of, I suspect someone confirmed to him, right? Like he can't say it because there's the whole thing about like it's a weird situation. I've said that I think partly because I don't think that HBO kind of wants to reveal how much they're cannibalizing possibly TBS. So I think some of those streaming numbers have been kind of like purposely kind of covered. But again, it is really interesting that like the show is, at least right now, they're doing extremely well. Like it's been kind of funny where like you know WWE is like everyone's cutting promo on AEW and AEW is like not paying any fucking attention to WWE at all, and I think that's helped a lot. Just you know keep doing good shows and it seems to be working, right? So thoughts on the ratings, guys? Anybody?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I mean, I've kind of been out of the loop in terms of Tony Khan interviews, so I didn't know that he dropped that nugget.
Yeah, he was very bullish on the ratings. He was like he didn't, again, it's a thing where you can kind of tell that he can't say it, but he was basically saying, oh, it's great that we're doing these great numbers and all time, like really high numbers. Like it's the only show on cable. I mean, like, you know, growing 20% year on year on cable is kind of insane, right? When literally the sky is falling on cable. And then doing that while doing a simulcast. And I think here's the thing, they're doing the simulcast and like they also added My AEW TV. So I know a lot of people like BJ, like when you do these polls, a lot of people are saying, oh no, I just wait until the next day and watch it without ads, right? Which you can do on My AEW TV, which I have the sub. I actually have My AEW TV and HBO, and I find myself watching the live show. But like, yeah, I mean, I know that there's been weeks where I just like watch it on My AEW TV, right? I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll just catch up without commercials, and I can skip the shit. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but it's a really kind of interesting thing. Like BJ, does that kind of match what you hear, or kind of?
I mean, like you've talked about the at some point in 2025, and this has gotten more and more hard to calculate because places nobody releases how many subscribers they have anymore. But at some point, the number of homes that was that was airing TBS, you know, dropped past the number of homes that have HBO Max, and I think that my number when I came out, you know, this was a huge, when I did the story a year and a half ago, it was 500,000. I think that number's probably holding up pretty well. And
I think as I said, like when you did the story, which was a year and a half ago, I believe. So a year and a half ago would be March 25 or 20.
It'd have been March 2024.
March 2024
or March 2025, excuse me,
March
because
2025. So
HBO
that
Max HBO Max started airing Dynamite in January 2025.
So the number on Flix Patrol for subscribers for that quarter for HBO worldwide was 122 million, and the number now is 140 million. So that is up about 15%. And the number of U.S. subscribers now is like 63 million. So yeah, it's kind of up you could kind of estimate that it was.
It's kind of about 12 million in the U.S. at that point, and it's kind of It's kind of swapped spots with how many homes were with TBS as far as numbers of homes.
Yeah. So as I said, like right now, 60 million is the number for cable that was reported in the quarter, and the number for HBO for this quarter estimated for Flix Patrol is 63 million. And again, 60 million is total cable subscribers, not total TBS subscribers. TBS is like 95% of those. So yeah, I mean, like it's flipped now, definitely flipped.
Yeah. I just think it just shows that, I think people really just need to quit trying. I think people really, after 7 years, they should try to stop underselling AEW.
Well, I think the thing that's really funny to me is this idea that nobody watches HBO when like they have these huge event shows, right?
That's another thing. Like the biggest drama in TV is The Pit. And it's only on HBO Max. Like, and it's a huge hit. They draw millions of viewers every episode. Like, The Sopranos are on there. All those HBO shows that you grew up with are on there.
Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Everyone was watching.
Yeah, I mean, Game of Thrones.
Watching the Dragon shows.
There's 50 Game of Thrones shows. There's the Silicon Valley's on there, which I like, but there's tons of Tom Hanks productions. There's this idea, and that's kind of the time. They're always known as like the premier kind of how would you say it?
It's not.
It's kind of the premier production kind of. It's the premier production studio. This is big league. This is the Prestige. Little upper crust. The Prestige. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. The boutique.
I've been watching live events on HBO my entire life. Literally my entire life. HBO has been doing premium events, and everyone's had it. Like boxing, and as I said, wrestling. Like my first memories of wrestling, watching on HBO back in the 70s. So like, I mean, I don't know this idea that like
who ran Pacquiao versus Mayweather? Who ran Pacquiao versus Juan Manuel Marquez, man?
It's like
who ran the big Mayweather fights?
Who are these people who have HBO and don't watch HBO? I was like one of the WWE fans like coming into my mention, like, oh, nobody watches. Like, dude, who are these people who are subscribed to HBO and don't watch HBO? That's like,
I'd love to know who they are. Like, I remember Mike Tyson's all his early fights up, until I think maybe the Buster Douglas fight. They were all on HBO.
Like a lot of fight was on HBO.
Wow.
It's good.
I think like people do underrate like the cultural reach of HBO, and they've grown like past 140 million subscribers, which is bigger than what you say 60 million cable subscribers.
Well, no, it's I want to be clear. It is 63 million HBO subscribers at the end of Q2 of 2025. This is 2026. This is from Flix Patrol. It's probably around 66 now. It's because it keeps growing, and as I said, total cable universe 60 million. So now HBO has more subscribers in the US than there are cable subscribers,
and that's year-over-year growth too, right?
Yeah, HBO has been growing. Insane. That's like WBD has been on a win streak, and we'll get into that when we talk a little bit about Paramount WBD.
Yeah. But I did want to hit on this for a little bit because you did hear me have this discussion with Sam Shipman about the Janel Granr case, and I know like also BJ, you've been covering it. So I think like when you get into this stuff and you come into like the WWE media, it really is funny how much these pro WWE podcasts just sort of step around this. And like I'll even throw in like you guys saw the podcast that CM Punk and Stephanie McMahon did where they were humanizing Vince McMahon. Disgusting.
I didn't
think
see much clips for that. Yeah.
I saw a small clip, and I honestly just, you know, I'm sick and tired of hearing well, they're family, and Vince means this to them, or Vince did this for me, or whatever the crap. Look what he did to some of these people, and that's what it boils down to me. It's like, I don't want to hear how good he was to you. I mean, obviously, that doesn't really bolster yourself, if you're saying, yeah, well, I'm fine with this guy. He's got multiple, sex crime allegations against him, just because he was super nice to me, or he paid for my wife's medical bills. I think that's what Bruce Pritchard was screaming at the Ringer producers during the Mr. McMahon documentary. But it this case has kind of opened the window on a lot of people as far as wrestling media and the wrestling business, as to what kind of people and human beings they are. And the but I think it also gets into like some of the stuff I've seen flown around about her case, some of the stuff I've seen, tweeted at me about her, and just other things like that. And one of the things that was driving me crazy is this kind of attitude that she's somehow giving up on the case. They were, this is, civil court is not criminal court. Vince wasn't going to jail for this because because of this lawsuit. You can't sue somebody and get them put in jail. A law enforcement official or a prosecutor can do that, right? But I think that people are, I think some people are feeling kind of bad about how they think she's kind of given up on this story, but I don't think they've been following this at all. They've been really haven't been reading the reporting by people like me or Sam and others, and that's basically that this is how this was going to play out. It was the court is always going to steer. Okay, the purpose of civil court is to okay, if somebody shows, hey, I've been injured, I need to be made whole. How do you make somebody whole? It's almost always a financial settlement of some kind, maybe some law and rule changes, something like that. And this is kind of the best that you can get for it. Fortunately, it sucks. But the thing is this criminal case has been closed for a little bit. It's still sitting on a shelf somewhere. And since that time, you have Janel's case has come out. Her statement of support, it's all over the filings. You also have all the stuff that's come out of the shareholder case. And I'm telling you right now, don't sleep on the Ring Boy case, because there's going to be more stuff coming out towards that. And I think that people that think that that this is all over. I mean, I can tell you for a fact, just from what Janelle's put on Instagram, this is certainly not over for her. This is not. This is the beginning of her, I mean, this is somebody who's had their voice stolen by an NDA and by a corporation for the better part of the last decade. I think that I think she's probably really, I mean, she's been posting a lot about different stories, things have been said in depositions about her on Instagram. I think this is going to be the beginning for her.
I think one of the things that it's kind of important, and you and I kind of talked about it. I think there were multiple cases WWE was faced with, and I think once the shareholder case kind of turned on them, and people kind of I've heard that people kind of haven't explained it well. Essentially, WWE kind of they said that TKO and WWE said they were going to cover the shareholders for their malfeasance, and kind of once the judge started talking about hey, you lied, and we're going to give you we're going to direct the jury to say understand that you guys lied, and so you have a bigger burden. It kind of put them in a position where they weren't going to get covered on the insurance, and they need to settle fast, right? So that's kind of where that came from. And I think that pressed them to probably make a much more generous offer to Janelle than they'd made previously. And the problem with that is once that happens,
well, I don't know. Well, right now they're arbitrating that, but I think it probably made them much more eager to get into any kind of arbitration.
I think
outside of what the NDA was, which is what they were trying to do.
They up the offer, and I think that also kind of the judge, as you said, he's going to drive towards the judgment. And so if one of the parties is coming, he's bringing a bigger number, so there's going to be more pressure to kind of close this out, because they're trying to get a direct judgment, they're trying to get a settlement, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I think they've made it much more flexible, much more likely. I think that people have to understand that given the climate, that we can't cover our hands and not understand kind of the legal climate and the political climate around this. And Vince's former wife, I guess, is a cabinet member. One of his best friends is president. There's a lot of a lot of things going against her, and I think the fact that she held out this long got him out of the company, and I think
I think Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez said this really well, which is like this is one of the biggest stories in the history of wrestling business.
Yes,
she's the one that took out Vince McMahon.
Yes,
go ahead.
And I think she did it against hell and high water, and I think that needs to be highlighted. And I think that rather than her giving up, I think she fought the fight and she got I think she got a technical knockout is my interpretation of this. And I think that and I also want to make the point that this doesn't close the possibility of criminal litigation. Now, I mentioned I don't think the fact that they can in that case can be revived. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen because there is no stomach in the U.S. for prosecuting this type of crime. Sadly, it doesn't matter which party's on top. I don't think we haven't seen one Epstein indictment.
I would have to. I think with Vince on this. And I think with Epstein too, there is a stomach. It's just, it's not at the top. And at some point, you're going to see the people that have been working on these cases. They're going to work their way to the top.
Yeah, I think once, but these people might be dead by the time that comes around. That's kind of maybe 10 years down the line we can revisit this. But there hasn't been my take is right now there is what is it all talk no pants, right? There is no. I always point back to Nancy Pelosi's daughter's tweet, which is still up, which says if we prosecute the Epstein crimes, we're gonna have to prosecute some of our faves, right? There is this idea that if you prosecute one of the rich and powerful, we're gonna have to prosecute all of them, so we're not gonna prosecute any of them. So there's not a lot of stomach for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and even though it could be,
and I've seen Nancy's daughter's documentaries; they suck. Go ahead.
Yeah, and but the point I'm making is the fact that she got this far, right? And she did all that she did, and she got the story out, and she got a technical knockout on one of the most powerful figure in the history of wrestling, is an achievement in and of itself.
Absolutely,
more than anyone has ever been able to achieve. And it's not, I know people didn't get the exact justice they thought they were going to get, but I think it is a level of justice that we rarely see, right? It's very rare that we get something like this, right? Typically, it's not I always tell people, any movie that you see where the bad guy gets caught at the end and arrested is complete and utter fiction, right? That shit doesn't happen in real life. And I think the fact that she was able to impose consequences on someone like Vince is.
I'll be honest. I think in a lot of ways for Vince, this is probably worse than going to jail. Is losing his company. I mean, this led to him having to sell the place. I mean, he was always going to sell the place. It'd been for sale for the right number. This definitely put him on the fast track to do it, and it ended with him losing it. This was the thing he loved more than his family. And
now here's a question for you. And I've said this before. I think they're going to try to put him in the Hall of Fame in Saudi.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think I think they'll at least try to do something like that. Well, I don't know what.
Especially if this thing just goes and settles and they kind of clear it out in a bit to clean up his image, I definitely see that sort of being
they're gonna try. I mean, they're gonna do it in Saudi.
They're already spinning on what's happening with the arbitration. I can tell you that. I mean, if you read my shareholder article and you read my last article on Grant's or in the arbitration, in the private arbitration, the Vince side's already spinning kind of what's happening here. But I think that, which is normal, but for these people to do, but I think that I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be hard for them because it's how much longer, if you want to put him in while he's alive, you're going to have to do it now. And at the same time, the sooner you do it, the more of a shit show it's going to be, and deservedly so. And because people like me are going to be writing about what he did. And I think that's at this time where
look, I'll put this out there. I was one of the people who reached out to Dave and say they should do a recall vote on Vince. There was no stomach for doing a recall vote on Vince for the Hall of Fame, and I would have at least put it down on paper, right? I think he's not a good person, and we have
No.
way more than enough. I mean, just we can start naming scandals, we can start naming stories, and he is not a person who, and I guess I think it'd probably be close anyway. But I do think that like having these conversations is valuable, having this on the record, and we were talking about the radio stuff before, and I think this is why you have to have independent media or have people who are coming in and having these conversations and putting it on the record. Like the work you do, the work Sam does, is extremely important. And again, I want to highlight this because I heard this story coming from people, and I want to make sure that no, I mean, I think she got a lot more than anybody does, and I respect the hell out of her for like putting herself through this.
Oh yeah,
to get to this point.
She went through hell in this scenario, and it wasn't a scenario; it was her life, which was abuse, and being trafficked, and then she's fought to this point where, she's got the final stamp on what's being said about this company and about him, and the common sense would say WWE TKO would never ever touch him again. But we know how Shapiro and Emmanuel live in a different penthouse that's nowhere connected to the rest of the human
We all
race.
heard the audio about Shapiro saying, "Hey, I got you, Vince," with the actual audio. Thank you for that, by the way.
I will say that like you just have to look at that stupid Liv Morgan video. Which is very much kind of a dig entirely at Janel, which is like just one of the more classless things they've done. And I thought like a lot of the stuff that they did in terms of that whole storyline is that, and like people were like, oh, it's not her fault. Like, no, I've seen her statements after. I think she was like wholly kind of into it, and I will never give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm speaking of Liv Morgan here. Like,
I'll never.
Don't let her recruit you into that weird church she's getting.
Yes,
into.
I'm not like you have to have some level of, you can't like.
And for the record, once again, Paul Heyman is trash.
Well, I know we already talked ratings, but the Netflix engagement report came out for the 18 months in WWE.
Oh yeah,
and there was exactly no growth of the audience. I mean, of course, they're going into the thing about it being sort of it shrinks because 2025 it had that novelty of it being live, but as it goes on and further, and people aren't really using the service to watch WWE.
You know why Netflix is considered a bad partner sometimes?
Why is that?
Because they cancel shows. Because they care about those initial views, right? And once a show is on for a while, they start like losing interest and eventually cancel it. So like Netflix is a partner that
usually
like
3 seasons.
Yes, and I think that I think the exit is what 5 years in for the contract. It's a 10-year contract, 5-year exit.
Yeah,
I think. It is, to me, it is a very interesting situation that WWE has actually like put themselves in. I was kind of saying like in the middle of this downturn with terrible numbers for attendances, like just like a terrible SummerSlam program. And they're going to combine that with going out to Saudi next year during WrestleMania season. And like, as I said, like, I think they might want to do something with Vince too. I really kind of think they're setting themselves up. This is the kind of stuff they like. You're setting yourself up to drive away the audience, which you kind of did in 2019. And
while you're making the product much more expensive every chance you get it.
Yes, and really kind of, as I said, like this is why AEW just needs to sit there and just do what they're doing, and not even worry about it too much. Even though like we can talk a little bit about like how they're raising prices in places. By the way, Jay, I didn't ask JMO your thoughts on Vince, if any.
With Vince, I think when you raised the prospect of him being inducted in the Hall of Fame, I could definitely see it just because of the fascination Turkey Al-Sheikh has with him.
Yes.
I remember that weird press conference where they announced WrestleMania being at Saudi. Turkey Al-Sheikh was there, and he said he mentioned that Vince McMahon was his father. It's for people that don't know Turkey Al-Sheikh. For people that don't know Turkey Al-Sheikh, he runs like basically the sports like authority branch of the Saudi investment fund.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what the exact title is, but initially he was the guy that set up the Saudi deal, to bring WWE over.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Not a
I
lot of
think
not a lot
I
of
think
people know that, and I remember when it was first put together. Like Triple H set up the initial meeting, but they had to fly Vince in to close the deal. And if you look, there's a picture of Vince Turkey without his sunglasses. Now he only wears his sunglasses now, but he looks a lot different. It's the same guy, Turkey Al Sheik and Triple H after they finalized the deal.
there's a I'm gonna get apocryphal here. This is like if you're reading like a story and they said this is apocryphal because again I can't prove this, but there are stories out there that part of the reason when Vince came back, you know how like the whole thing where he came back and said like no I'm not gone anymore, I'm coming back and we're selling the company. Some of that supposedly is because again he talked to some of his friends, maybe his best friend, and then he got some of his friendly Saudi money to say hey we'll buy the company for you. Now so this is why like there's a whole story about like people like I know people kind of went in and said oh the Saudis are going to buy it and everyone thought it was going to buy it, but I mean like actors in the company who Nick Khan talked them into like a directed buying process, which is how we ended up with TKO buying it. But like I strongly there's a strong noise that like the person you're mentioning was probably told them hey we'll help you, we'll get you the company back for you, and then Vince was talked into going a slightly different way. But like, and again, I think there's rumors still strongly that like at some point, like they could still sell out WWE to the Saudis.
Yes.
It's always been kind of like the initiative, and like the person who, if Saudi did buy it, would be I forget his name, Prince.
Oh, oh God,
Prince Solomon. What's
Yeah,
his name?
Mohammed bin Salman.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
but it would be the guy who's running the sports the sports initiatives would be the guy kind of like the same guy who did the live golf thing and the same guy who did the I forget what the Sufa boxing is the one they were trying to do.
No, those are two different guys. So Turkey runs Zuffa Boxing. The other guy, I forgot his name. That ran Live. He was actually like one of the head accountants because I remember he did an interview with oh gosh I'm blanking on the name, but I remember he did this well, not big because not a lot of people saw it, but it was like on on Bloomberg or something or CNBC.
Oh, you're talking about Abdulaziz bin Turki Al Faisal. He's the Minister of Sport, and he's driving the 2030 sports initiative. He's the
World
Minister
Cup.
of Sport.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, because I know that they it was some crazy amount that they wanted to increase their their GDP from like 2 trillion to like 10 trillion or something like that.
Yeah, so people like, and I think I've probably explained this before. So the whole point of the wealth investment funds that the Saudis and all the Gulf states have is they're trying to shift they have all this like oil money, but they understand that the oil money kind of has like a limited shelf span. So they're trying to shift that oil money into other revenue streams. So this is why they want to like get into like Paramount and they want to get into like sports because well, I mean there's a combination of things. They want to do that, so they want to like generate additional revenue, but they also want to do what's called sports washing, which is or entertainment washing, because like, hey, if they run these companies or they have a take, they can change how they are perceived and portrayed in the media, right? Because
Yes.
like, yeah, that's kind of how like this is why nobody blames
Ignore
the
these
Saudis
human rights abuses.
like,
Watch
this
this
is why
live golf match.
This is why nobody blames the Saudis for 9/11, for example. Even though there is kind of connections there. Like, ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying that, but I mean, like, this is kind of why you do this kind of thing because, like, essentially, this is like you buy a team sometimes and use it. That's kind of like wash your image. So this is all like, yeah, they're trying to shift all this revenue to that. Now, some of the stuff, if people kind of like want to like have like do some trippy stuff, people should like look up the line, like go up and look up the line. There's a lot of videos on that, and you can see some like whacked out stuff these guys are trying. These are not necessarily the most how shall I say this? Conservative investors. Is that a good interpretation, guys? These are not like
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I recommend looking at the Abandoned series because it's really great. Speaking of deals, speaking of wheeling and dealing, it was just announced that the California Attorney General is suing Paramount in the case of the merger between Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery. And that comes with a lot of caveats because I believe it was said, Arturo, that should this not close by September, that there would be some things happening.
Okay, so I will say this. So essentially, so people understand, and I've been saying this from the go. I don't think the Warner Brothers repudiated Paramount multiple times, and they initially wanted to go Comcast, then they wanted the Netflix came in with a bigger offer. They talked to them, made sense, and then supposedly the White House stepped in and said, like, we're not going to approve this, so you better take this other offer, which is Paramount, because Allison is friends with the White House, and effectively they want like the GOP and the White House want to control this media company and have like Ellison control this media company and kind of like be able to drive the message. And if you want to preview what's happening, then what's happening with 60 Minutes and CBS is an example of what the White House and the GOP are trying to do, right? Nobody, I'm just giving you guys context. And effectively, when Zaslav did this, Zaslav said, okay, fine. We'll go in, and like Netflix took a $2 billion kind of like payoff, and Zaslav basically said, okay, so there's penalties that come in, right, if they can't close the deal fast enough, and if the deal falls
September
through,
30th, the date.
yes, I think they start getting something like, I think it's like somebody put the number, I forget the exact number what it was, but they're getting like millions of dollars a day for every day it goes through. It doesn't go through, and then if the deal completely falls off, I believe they essentially get $7 billion payout the day it doesn't, and I believe between everything it's like $9 billion. So what this means is if the deal doesn't go through, Warner, which if Zaslav did the Discovery merger, they took on a shit ton of debt. It was like the economics of the company was broken when he came in, and if the deal doesn't go through, Warner will have gone through the entire process and emerged debt free, right? Like which is like insane to consider. Like they will be debt free, and I was like talking to them, like and speculating if the deal falls through, Warner would probably go back and revisit the Comcast and the Netflix merger. But here's the thing: like now Warner is debt free, so it might be a situation where Warner might be an acquisition partner in a much stronger negotiating position for a merger because like they're not like getting rid of debt because they have no debt. They basically they've cleaned their books, they fixed the movie studio, they fixed the TV product, everything's generating a bunch of money, and they got rid of all the debt because like fucking Ellison paid for it. This is like, and I've said from the go that like I think there's audio from Sideline saying he's perfectly fine with it. There's like he was talking, like I said, leaked audio from the company our meeting has revealed that Dave Zaslav literally said if the deal may not close, if it doesn't close, we get $7 billion and we get back to work, right? So
it's
the thing I explain to people is like, here's the thing, right? Nobody likes Ellison. Nobody in Hollywood likes Ellison. But here's the important part.
I'm not sure Larry likes him.
But no, but here's the important part, right? The Democrats are in the middle of like contentious primaries everywhere, and there's one issue they all agree on, one, right? And the issue is fuck Paramount, fuck Ellison, right?
Yes.
Like if we go to Michigan and ask like Haley Stevens and like Abdul probably, and we could probably get them to agree that like this merger should be stopped, right? And those two like because essentially like what happens is like nobody really like the Democratic Party, the Democratic donors do not want one. They either don't like Ellison personally, or they don't want the White House and the GOP to control like this conglomerate. They really don't want that. There's all the interest. Like the progressives don't want it because like it'll cut jobs and it'll change the pipeline. There's everyone just does not like this merger. And so from the go, I've said like the moment we get through the primaries, right, which is going on now, and go through the midterms, this thing is deader than the dog, right? Because nobody likes this merger. Like the two least popular things probably in the country in terms of issues. I mean, like if like less political rods of political that politicians are willing to go at. Like I think Paramount's like the safest thing to go after. The merger, and I think probably the second thing might be like AI data centers, but there's enough money coming in from AI data centers that people aren't going to go after that. Like that's a little more extensions. And number 3, I'm not even going to mention because I don't want to get banned, right? So, but everyone kind of knows that. Like, hey, they're like, are we talking about Palestine? But like, no. So the point being that, like, essentially, this merger I always thought was going to die when it went, because I remember, like, it's a Cory Booker. When Cory Booker comes out and condemns the merger, like I was explaining to Larry and BJ, I was like, Cory Booker is like, he's reading straight off at the Democratic donors.
Yeah. He's
Somebody
reading
sent
off
them an
the
email. Like, so
teleprompter.
the Democratic money hates it, and the Democratic voters hate it, and the unions hate it. So like this is, again, they're gonna go there. This is probably gonna go to hearings, and it's gonna die. This is a bone that people can throw in, and nobody likes Allison. And again, this has always been kind of like a little bit obvious to me, because I always, again, Zaslav basically was Zaslav engineered the situation so that Warner wins if this falls through, right? Which always kind of told me that, like, why did he do that, right? This is a weird kind of like, why does he have out clauses that if the merger falls through, he is in the best position the company's ever been, like, in his entire tenure. That is always kind of funny. And
I do want to say this to Arturo and BJ, guys. We've been talking about this for a full calendar year, because this is the first time we've been. This is like the first show we ever did with Arturo was covering exactly this, and like what would come around it. And now we're like, after a year of covering this, it's pretty funny.
I think it was like, I think according to Puck, it was like a week from being approved a year ago. So,
I mean, but we talked about this. It just didn't. Again, it's the kind of thing like, who's talking against it, like, and why did these companies get, like? And as I said, like, my opinion is this is going to fall through. At worst, if it goes through, they're going to have to do some sort of vested thing. The books don't make sense for Paramount. And then here's actually the thing I want to mention is, so BJ, how's the CBS thing going with Barry Weiss?
I mean, they have one audience member who's really in love with it. The rest, they seem to be bailing in droves.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the thing with Barry, it's like, so people don't know, like, they brought in, like, the test case for this is they brought in, like, so the White House hated 60 Minutes and didn't like the CBS editorial direction. And so, like, part of this was like they wanted to get Ellison to control CBS, and they wanted to put in like a patsy or somebody who's like, who will follow orders essentially, and that's what Barry Weiss has always done, right? And so they brought her in to run the newsroom, and it's been a disaster. And I think there's been the interesting part about this is there's been articles, right, in the financial press talking about how the investors, and this is the important part, the investors for the Paramount stuff are all kind of like, well, this just sucks. I'm basically setting money on fire. And if people are familiar with some of the stuff, like back in, and you remember, oh God, what's the name of the network that Sinclair? So the thing with Sinclair back in the day, when the RH used to be in Sinclair, and Sinclair was like the big conservative kind of like, they bought all the local news channels, and eventually that shit like ran out of money, right? And I think here's the thing with this is like, between the investors kind of going like, well, this is a terrible idea because like nobody wants to watch this shit. We can't sell ads on it, so we can't make money on it. Which is kind of what they're seeing with CBS. I think the other part is like some of the money's coming from the wealth funds, and what's happening right now in the Middle East?
A war.
Yes. So I think, again, the picture gets complicated because I do think the money that's supporting this is concerned. So if I don't have cash, and this is a terrible idea. And I think the people who have to approve it have no incentive to. Like, here's the thing. I don't believe there's a check big enough that they can write to convince the people who are against it to give it to them necessarily. And I don't think the money to do that is necessarily even in place. So it's again, I'm kind of on more like 25% it happens at this point. I feel more like the more likely scenario is like, this just does not get past. This does not fly because the financials are shit, the politics are shit. And the people who are in it like are betting on this failing. Like I said, like Zaslav is betting on this shit failing. So like if I just look at all that, I'm like, well, this is probably not going to succeed. And we'll revisit. This doesn't mean I don't think Warner is going to merge with somebody, but I don't see necessarily. Until I see it, I'm Like, like how do you bring everybody who's against this? Like, everyone hates it. How does this happen? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that it. I think we're going to see some really fun things following September 30th.
It is. One thing I'll mention is it is kind of funny that like if you listen to Tony Khan on Yahoo Finance, he was really excited about the Paramount thing. He's apparently he might be the one guy who likes Ellison. It was kind of
they got
funny.
a lot in
Like,
common.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but just to get on to this, because I'm going to take a little bit of a hiatus here, but you're still going to hear news from us. I mean, not news, but you're going to hear like shows from us. I'm really proud of the shows that we did record. It's going to be coming out soon, maybe like in September, but you're going to hear a preview of it this coming Saturday. You're going to hear a lot of people that we talked to, me, JML, BJ, and Arturo. Actually talked up the Super J Cup 94 for about about 3 hours. So you're going to enjoy that stuff. And you're going to hear some of the guests that we have lined up for that whole big trilogy of tournament programs. I just wanted to get that out there because you're just going to hear a bunch of classic Larry. So I just wanted to say that, and I want to thank you guys for coming here. And there's definitely this one thing I wanted to talk about because I know it's getting late here, and I know we all have y'all have things to do. So, some really interesting thing to me that JML posted about was, is there a possibility for a third uh, financed big wrestling company? And I really do believe there is a place for it as long as it's delivering something that's different from what's already being delivered by the mainstream companies that we see on TV. Because, for all we talk about match quality and all that stuff, neither show is really that different when it comes to like presentation of pro wrestling. It's still like stuff stuck in the 90s for the most part, or the early 2000s. And I think there is room for change. There's room for something like, and I say hugely financed. I'm kind of, for me and my purposes, I'm gearing that towards like seasonal pro wrestling, like Lucha Underground. I believe there is something there for people who want narrative, good production, and just like something that you can sort of sink your teeth into without really having to dedicate yourself 52 weeks of the year out of it. And there was some things that JMO was presenting with this case, and I would love to hear it from you, JMO.
Well, I said, what was it? Was it last week or a couple days ago? The days are just running together. That there's all this talk with it was like a year had passed of what Eric Bischoff was talking about, saying TNA would be the number two promotion if they got a TV deal, and we see now with what they're doing on AMC. I mean, they got the TV deal, but what they're doing with AMC and the decline in attendance.
JML, have I told you what I compared the TNA show to, or I probably should bring it up real quick.
No.
Are you familiar with the Bozo show from back in the day?
Bozo the Clown?
Yes, like Bozo would have, on WGN, the old Bozo, like the old children's show with like the host, and they would have like the little cartoons with like Rocky and Bullwinkle, that kind of stuff. So the TNA show is like Bozo, but like Santino Marella is Bozo, and the wrestling is like the cartoons.
Gotcha.
So it is the Santino Marella show, right? And it's like it's I don't know why WWE insists on having like, it's like if they could make the entire show around like GMs, they probably would. But keep going.
With TNA, with their declining attendance, it's clear that they're the distant number 3 promotion in the United States. But with that being said, they're I think the pipe dream, and this is a big pipe dream because I don't think it will happen, but in terms of what the situation here in America with with WWE and AEW, I think there is there's a market spot for a number three promotion. Dating back to the 1990s in the U.S., you had ECW, obviously. So, and then you flip on the other side of the world in Japan. Other than New Japan and All Japan, the 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 promotions that are vying for number three are basically All Japan Women, FMW, and UWFI. All three distinct styles and all three basically niches. And I think, or niche, I think if you had a true number three promotion, it would have to be a niche promotion. It would have to be some type of hardcore wrestling promotion, which I don't think GCW will do that anytime soon. You have to do a shoot, something like a shoot style promotion, and shoot style will never take off in America, not in the modern day, because you have UFC, you have
MMA.
basically MMA, and with TKO and UFC, they would kill it. Even a hint of that doing, and also you have Real American Freestyle, which they've let their guys do, and Eric Bischoff's part of that. So
That's doing that's I was looking at that. That's doing okay, but not great.
It's
That's
a
kind of
right.
it's a
very
pretty good watch if you actually like you like freestyle wrestling, which I do. So like I like the competition on there. I don't really like the hokey promos because that's not what I'm looking for in this. And yeah, I understand that because there is something there that's sort of like missing in the American market. And I bring up Lucha Underground on purpose because we know that Lucha is having a
well.
moment in pro wrestling.
I think here's the problem with like Lucha Underground, which is you're talking about like the more story driven and kind of like less wrestling, more kind of stage thing. And I think that
I'm
like that's kind of
thinking of
played
it
out.
as a I'm thinking of it as like a 13 episode sort of layout for pro
Well, but
wrestling.
again, this is kind of the this is what WWE does, right? So their product is more like a show about wrestling, not a wrestling show, and I think that kind of like plays
But it
into that.
never
I think
ends.
I think when we were talking about Dragon Gate, I kind of mentioned this. I think kind of the if I was going for this, the niche is if you think about Mexico, there's a strong set of regional promotions on the north side. They're just like running around territories, and I think there's again with Dragon Gate going places where people doesn't
Monterey,
go. Like
yeah.
I think having something that's more regional and built around that kind of model, where like it's hitting like smaller, hotter venues, it's hitting like a certain area. It's got like its
Yeah.
cast of
Let,
characters, and and I
let's
think the flavor of the lucha indie kind of Dragon Gate thing, where like there's more comedy, but the work is still good. I think is, but again, like the trick is, it has to be something where, like, I think what's interesting to me is, like, I think some of the proto stuff that's going on my AW is kind of interesting because it's kind of going to like where I possibly want to go with this, right? Whereas I think it needs to be something. I
what's
mean, I
up,
think it needs
Preston?
to be something built more around regions and built more about like core loyal audiences. I think here's the thing. I actually think that what NXT did early NXT did is probably not a terrible model, right? Where like you have like a certain set of
Yeah.
buildings that you run, and you
Let-
have loyal
yeah.
audiences, and you
Let's
have like
let's
kind of
say
different talents that you bring in.
let's say like I don't know, for instance, they like run like Hollywood and LA or Anaheim, Anaheim
Hey,
with that
no,
big oh,
don't give my
but I'm
business.
gonna cut off myself.
Don't give my business.
Let's cut off ourselves before we get to that.
Yeah,
But
don't give out my business plan out here. No, but I mean, like,
right.
I think essentially, I think that there's an interesting way to do it, where you're running it. And again, I thought out the Dragon model because Dragon does vary kind of the roster a lot, and they go a lot of places, and I do think that's kind of more interesting, and it gives
Yeah,
you like a little bit more feel. I really don't want it to feel like a big show, right? I don't want. I think, God, as I was
because they
watching.
tour everywhere, but they mostly focus on like southern Japan, like
Right. I mean,
Kobe.
like it's like like an area that has like a history, but like is underserved maybe. And I think kind of bring it's like, and I think that the thing I was going to say, like, so if you watch, I will occasionally go in and watch some of the WWE shows, and like their production gives me cancer, because God, I go in and like I cannot stand the fake noise, kind of like the orchestrating stuff. It's like it's just the most artificial feeling thing, and it's just to me so it's like it's like bad dinner. It's like, to me, it's a little bit, sometimes it's like bad dinner theater. It's like not spontaneous. It's not like, for a lot of times, like, and it makes it just kind of like seem that. And that's really like what I want is kind of the opposite of that. And I think AEW does a lot of like very high stage work rate stuff and interesting story. Like, and I like that, but I do like the old feels. Like I remember, like, I used to love Rampage, for example. And I thought what Rampage presented, which was like, hey, let's do the best possible show of like the first possible local like indie on a Friday night, right? That feel is, I think, something that if you can kind of reproduce, be interesting. So but again, I think the other part is, like, I would say that like what you want is something not too long. Like, really, if I was building with a promotion, I'd be going for like maybe an hour of TV a week, honestly.
Because like we were talking about beforehand, and JLML brought up like the pipe dream of like an angel investor. We were talking. JML, you said Jenny Buss because of her payout from selling the Lakers.
Yeah, because Jeannie Buss, she just got the big payout for selling the Lakers, and we'll see how that goes because the new owner is being investigated with his companies, but nonetheless, she also invests in wrestling. She is the owner of Dave McLean's Women of Wrestling or Women of Heroes, and I think superheroes they've renamed themselves as. So if to me, I think the market inefficiency, especially for the U.S. is women's wrestling at a large scale, not at a small scale. I mean, there's smaller companies that do women's only wrestling, but I think for a large scale, and I think that would be that's to me that's the market inefficiency right there. And I think if someone like a Jeannie Buss, she woke up and snapped out of it and said, why am I dumping my money into this form of wrestling and get real serious and start plucking and raiding WWE and AEW and even Stardom and taking talent from those organizations? Because what popped in my mind for this was because of so many people complaining about Raw the other night having no in-ring segments for the women, or even no matches in a 3-hour show or a 2-hour show, whatever.
That's wild.
Here's the problem. I mean, I think objectively, part of the problem is like the way women's wrestling is presented in WWE is not a draw. Or really, I mean, it's hardly ever been a draw. And I think AEW does a better job of it. But here's the thing that I'll throw out. I think the first part is I think the talent, and we were talking about this beforehand. They like AEW struggled to fill the women's wrestling segments with talent when they went to like 7 hours of like when they were doing like Rampage, Collision, and Dynamite in a week. They struggled, and I remember because like, hey, Abaddon, God bless her, but she did not need to be having a world championship program on national TV. And the thing I would say is like I go back like short, and here's the other point I'll throw out. The best wrestling promotion, best female, and arguably maybe one of the best wrestling promotions ever was All Japan, right? All Japan Women. And the All Japan Women's model was idols. It's idols wrestling. They would sing in the ring. They would like do shows. There's like it's a presentation that like God, I think would annoy the hell out of us because there's a lot of like the like razzmatazz on that, like in turning them into like stars and idols, right? And I think like if you're doing that, then I think you kind of have to go full bore. But it needs to be a combination of the work rate plus. So they need to kick ass, but they also need to be kind of charismatic, right?
Because the crush gals and jumping bomb angels were, they're beautiful women who could sing and dance, but they could also kick ass, like what you're saying. Like, I'm
like who is like Larry? Who is my favorite female wrestler of all time?
Toyota.
You tell me, man.
Combat Megumi, baby.
I think that if there's
and Combat Toyota,
Megumi Kudo, man.
I think if there's going to be a number 3, I think you're going to see. I would love to see somebody try to do American Lucha promotion.
I think here's the thing. I would
Let me introduce you to 2011, BJ.
Yeah, I would probably not. I wouldn't do that. I would do an English, well produced English version of the existing shows, right? Like I think if you could probably sell this,
but...
you could sell the CMLL. You could sell.
But I think that
you could take CMLL.
I wasn't finished with my thought,
please.
But I would try to go for something that is a lot different than what you're seeing. But I think the other way to do it is WoW's had some success on the Sinclair stations. They like it. When it was airing on there, and it's still on. I think the next step would be to do a more serious women's promotion. I think what you're saying with Stardom and some of the Japanese All Japan women's elements, I think would be great. And there's people in the industry now that have the knowledge that they can do this. I mean, Kenny Omega wanted to make a Joshi division, or because of the WWE just did such a good job of swallowing indie talent as far as women back in 2018, 2019. He wanted to make it more of a Joshi involved women's division. I think.
Do not get me started on the fact that they used Emmy's production promotion as like, that was not like, look, I respect to Emmy, but like Chocopro was not what they should have been putting on TV. But like,
unfortunately, because of the relationships at the time,
Choco Nakajima on TV, man.
I'll tell you this: one of my all-time favorite wrestling tournaments ever was during COVID when he had the AEW Women's Title Tournament, and they had the half in Japan on YouTube with the Shida was running, and they had the half in the US. It was a lot of fun.
Dude,
yeah, I mean, like,
and we got in Macchiato Madness.
Yeah, I agree.
Dude, I love Ryo Mizunami in that one. I think he was so cool on that, and we had Asia Kong, the best black wrestler of all time.
Yeah, that Asia was weird on that. Like, I think, like, but I think it. Again, I think people underestimate how hard it is to pull the talent pool in the U.S. and people hate hearing this, but for the women, is pretty shallow. And the women that are good are all signed, right?
Yeah.
And
there's more now than ever, but it's still.
Yeah, and people.
Yeah. And I think the talent pool for men's a lot smaller too, because you have so much companies.
Yeah, but like I think the problem is a lot of the female talent is going through the PC, and the PC's terrible. So like, unless you get somebody who's coming in through the dojos, right? And a lot of the male. Here's the thing with the males: the male talent is more likely to have gone to like Mexico or Japan and like gotten proper training, right? So like,
I will say this though, like because I did go to an independent show this weekend. Shout out to Brendan and Doc Washburn, Winner Circle. Y'all treated me so good there. Shout out to my boys, Asia Zoe, Alpha Zoe. Shout out to my boy G Sharp. Shout out to Kuya Teddy. TJP was there. Great show there. There's talent out there, right? And I did name TJP. He is signed by WWE technically, and that's a lot of what you're running into on the independents is guys who are they're either overtly signed by either company, WWE
or they're
they're
under contract control. I think one thing I'll throw out, and again I'm giving away business plans here, but one of the things that like I've actually suggested is like getting together something where it's like a mix of a touring company coming from like Mexico and Japan and maybe touring the West Coast and using that as kind of the base. But then again, I think the talent to do the shows is there, you have to tie it with solid production. And I'd almost want to see like something where like you're setting up for like half-hour episodes you release daily with like some like music and promotion, and you put that on there as short episodes using the talent that's already available and release that, and like again kind of do that. And again, I think the key for this is do not ask me to watch, like if you ask me to watch 2 or 3 hours, that's no. A no. Like that's no. You need to give me something that's more easily digestible.
How NXT worked for those years before they got into USA was they were like an hour long.
Yes,
not even an hour. 45 minutes, 40 to 45 minutes long.
Have I mentioned
bell to bell?
Have I mentioned that I missed Rampage and the best? Like here's the thing, like with the best Rampages, which are like an hour of like just like kick ass shit going on that you never see anywhere else, and crazy matches that you wouldn't see anywhere else. That's kind of like, can we get something like that? That is the like we're talking about the inefficiency. Give me an hour show with like kick ass matches that I can just watch in like 40 minutes, right? And
this is what I'm talking about. Wrestling being stuck in that sort of age because all four of us here, right? I'm sure we all grew up with like the TV wrestling, an hour on Saturdays. It's fine. When Saturday night got to like the 90-minute thing, that was all right. Okay, it was all right. But I think like that good period for people to have that attention span, and this is why those television shows are like 40 minutes, 45 minutes when you put them on, like the really good dramas. It's because your attention is there for that, and it's all focused on that show for what it is in that time. And I think that binging sort of like takes some stuff away, but people like going to the weekly format. People also do like binging, but I mean, there's something else there when you're watching this short format show, as opposed to you have to dedicate yourself for 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, sit down and watch a whole slog of stuff, and by hour two you're already out. So I love this discussion, but I know it's getting late, and I've had some of my buddies, shout out to you, Kevin, fall asleep on stream. So I just wanted to go here and say thanks to all three of you for coming on the show and like having this discussion with me. Thank you guys for this whole year of doing State of Wrestling, because uh, I always wanted to listen to a pro wrestling news show where people sounded intelligent and were media literate and kind of like weren't scooting around things to like save whatever face for whatever company they wanted to like kiss ass to, because that's what we do here. And what you said earlier about independent pro wrestling news, that is what we deliver here.
Well, I
We are
mean, I think
independent 100%.
I think again, I think I've said that like what I wanted out of this is we have smart conversations that are interesting, and I think it's important that we keep having them because we were talking about this earlier. Like, there's a narrative being pushed, and we want to we know the actual story, and we want to like have it out there, right? And I think it's kind of
Yeah.
important because I do think that people kind of like miss a lot of this stuff, and it is kind of funny to me that like people tell us they're crazy. Like a year ago, we tell these things, and a year later.
Yeah.
Like, were we wrong?
Here
I mean,
we
we
are.
gotten some stuff wrong,
No.
right? But
We got
like,
some stuff wrong, but here we are, man.
yeah, I
Here
mean,
we
like,
are.
we get some stuff wrong. We still get some stuff right, right? That's how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. But I wanted to thank all three of you for coming on here, spending your Thursday evening with me, almost into like I guess Friday morning.
Friday
And
morning.
I'm gonna give you guys a chance to like spread the word about where they can find you. I guess I'll do it for him. You can follow BJ on Twitter at BJ Bethel Tweets. You could see him on SE Scoops. He is also on Substack at bbethel.substack.com. One great writer, great friend, good dude. JML, where can people find you if they wanted to find you?
You can find me on Twitter at VJML underscore. Again, that's on Twitter or X, whatever. I still call it Twitter.
It's Twitter.
Yeah,
The
I call it Twitter.
Yeah, VJML underscore. Simple as that. Also follow the account I run. Well, I run with Detlef called the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame Tracker, WHONFOH Tracker. That is the user handle that you can go. We track the public ballots of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, and it's a labor of love that we do every single year, late in the year. For the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, and this will be an interesting year coming up for 2026. For last year in 2025, we received the most amount of public ballots, and if you are a Hall of Fame voter and want to have your ballot public, send it over to us. we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, I loved how many people you got on there. I've always tried to spread the word on that, whether it's you or Ryan on the count out. Great show, by the way. You can also listen to our stuff because a lot of guys are up again in there, and yeah, it's really great to listen to all that stuff, man, and read all the stuff that you have on there. Arturo, I know for now the model is not up right now, but
We're
you know,
not. We
people
don't.
can follow you on
At some
Twitter.
point, I think the next conversation Larry and I were having. So you can follow me on Twitter. Larry and I were talking, and we might try to bring back the over-unders that I did for a long time on Real GM. We'll see about that. That might be a roundball thing we do. I did want to shout out to Sam, and I think BJ mentioned, and you mentioned it, she's doing a thing on heels. And I think BJ tweeted it out, and if you want to kind of like reach out and talk to her, hey, do that, because hey, we want to help put another podcast where you can have get the information she needs. And it's been good, guys, and it's been a lot of fun today.
Yeah, thank you again, Sam, for being part of the show. You've always been a great resource here for us. And I want to say one more thing. Fuck you mean Rich Paul about Shaq and Kobe not being internationally known? What the fuck are you talking about? That's some bum-ass opinion. What the hell? How the hell are you going to say that AI is a bigger star than Kobe? What the fuck are you smoking? And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
AI bigger than Kobe? I'm glad I missed that conversation.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, I'm going to go out on that. So once again, thank you guys for joining us on State of Wrestling. It's been a whole year of this stuff, and I couldn't have the best group of people to do this show with than Sam, BJ, JML, and Arturo. So thank you guys so much, and see you next time.
I'm coolin', I'm feeling alive. Don't be calling my phone, trying to kill my vibe. Bitch, I work too hard to get this fly. I'm feeling good to that, 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 good to that. I'm feeling good to that, 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 good to that.
Hello, hey guys. So I have with me here Tom Fleming, comic book artist, cover artist, comic book trading card artist. You may have seen his work on heavy metal. You might have seen his work on Marvel and DC Comics. You might have seen his work on wrestlers such as Razor Ramon. Tom, great to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
So you're gonna be at an event at the end of July, right?
Yep, GalaxyCon Raleigh. It's been my staple show. It's my closest show that I do to where I live in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I look forward to it every year. And they take really good care of us.
Absolutely. What can people look for on that show that you're gonna bring?
So at that show, that's one of my, that's my full setup. I have everything from my framed G clay canvases to prints on photo luster paper, my full line of superhero, Marvel, DC, and fantasy art. So yeah, it's pretty much everything. My full line of everything, including some original art. Sometimes I even bring the legendary original art for the 93 Survivor Series, the one that we spoke of in the interview with Lex Luger. I still have those paintings, so sometimes I put them on display also.
I love this stuff. And where can people go again? This is going to be the Raleigh Comic Con?
Yeah, this is GalaxyCon Raleigh. And if they're all over social media. So if you want more information, just go on Facebook or Instagram and stuff, and they do daily posts on all the artists and media guests.
Okay. And if people wanted to follow you and see your art, where can people do that?
Okay, the TomFlemingArtwork.com is the website. Tom Fleming Art on Facebook, or Tom Fleming, but you would have to send me a friend request. And then on Instagram, it would be Tom Fleming Art on Instagram, and then I have my Etsy and eBay stores with my full line of prints.
Excellent stuff. So that's GalaxyCon in Raleigh. That's where people can find you at the end of July.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.